A woman with purple hair is in despair over the loss of her child. A man with green hair tries to comfort her. He tells her that their son, Isekai'd, has died and encourages Carla to hold on. The woman, unable to contain her emotions, continues to sob, saying that she will not stop living until she sees her son again. The woman says the name of the spell, Giant Rocket Flash, and releases a powerful magical charge towards the enemies. The little girl excitedly expressed her admiration for the magic shot, telling her mother that it was cool. She praised her mother for hitting the target from a kilometer away. The woman used the situation as a teaching moment for Enid. She explained to him that he had to aim straight for the golem's chest to pierce its heart, and not hit the allies represented by the rocks around it. The young mage, gathering his strength, focused his staff forward. Having completed the spell, he released a powerful energy charge, which flashed forward with a bright flash and caused a massive explosion. The ground shook from the impact. Dust and debris flew into the air, leaving behind destruction. The girl and woman who were watching what was happening froze in amazement, not expecting such force. The boy himself, seeing the result of his blow, was shocked and somewhat confused. After a powerful attack, the boy happily reports his success, beaming with pride. The woman watches him closely and notices that although the target was destroyed, he was unable to isolate the blow. The allies nearby would have been hit too. She mentally chides him for not aiming exactly as he was told. He is also warned that without constant practice and effort, he will not advance further, and even risks receiving a mocking nickname. The boy takes the reproach with slight embarrassment, internally agreeing with the need to continue training. The girl, beaming with joy, enthusiastically thanks her mother for the lesson and eagerly awaits the next one. The boy thanked his sister. The girl, with a gentle smile, tells her brother that there is nothing to thank him for. He, stretching relaxedly, looks a little embarrassed and tired. Then she admits that she envies his knowledge and abilities, calling him the strongest mage she has ever met. The boy, surprised, asks again if she really thinks so. The girl, beaming with sincere feelings, with a blush on her cheeks, declares that she dreams of becoming just like him. About 10 years ago, a new continent appeared on the global map, discovered and developed by the A's Empire, a sea power. On this new continent, a city called Melia was founded. It was there that the main character was born, who now lives in a world reminiscent of medieval fantasy. He remembers waking up in the body of a baby, realizing that he had started life anew in another world. In his past life, the protagonist experienced alienation. People hated him, and the situation was extremely difficult. He worked at an exhausting job, being in a state of complete mental and physical exhaustion. Despite all this, he always tried to spend dinner with his parents, holding on to a small thread of warmth. However, at one point everything changed. His parents got into an accident and died. After the death of his parents, the protagonist began to live on the money they left him, completely withdrawing into himself. He turned into a slacker, not needing anyone and not interested in anything. His life became absolutely empty and meaningless, an existence without a purpose. He felt like a living dead man. And when he first began to ask questions about his condition, the unexpected befell him. He died suddenly at a young age, never finding an answer. The boy's parents exclaim in amazement and joy that a real miracle has occurred. Their son, whom they thought was dead, has suddenly come to his senses. Tears of happiness well up in their eyes. The little boy himself, lying in bed, looks at the world with wide open eyes, gradually realizing his new state. He remembers that in his previous life he loved to read short stories about reincarnations in other worlds, but now he finds it hard to believe that he himself has found himself in such a story. The protagonist watches his new parents. They look happy, holding him in their arms with warmth and care. At this moment, for the first time in a long time, a feeling of need arises in his soul, a feeling that he is really important to someone. The baby is breastfed by a fair-haired dark elf girl named Luna, who serves as a nanny and assistant. The protagonist recalls that her care was part of his daily life as a child. Although he considers his mother the most beautiful woman in the world, he cannot help but notice that she is completely flat compared to the nanny. The baby's mother, holding him in her arms, announces that today she will begin teaching him magic, starting with a simple spell called Material Exchange. The father doubts his son's magical training, considering himself insufficiently capable and inexperienced. The mother is sure of the opposite, since she herself began to conjure at the age of 6 without help. Their argument is observed by a child who gets tired of listening and mentally orders them to start already. In the end, it is explained that the family, although noble, is of lower class, owning a village with a population of only 70 people. The hero's father tries unsuccessfully to perform a simple spell that requires only 5 mana points but still fails even after an hour. The mother, watching this, holds back her irritation, and the baby in her arms looks indifferent. The father admits that he does not possess magic, nor a sword, and has no special ability to control. Despite this, he tries not to give up. The hero's inner voice sarcastically calls him a useless lord. The hero's father confesses his love with a sincere smile, assuring that he loves more and stronger than anyone else. His words touch the mother. Iroi notes that he often sleeps in this crib, right in his parents' room. The protagonist, being in the cradle in his parents' room, is faced with the fact that he is forced to hear their nighttime conversations and sounds. He ironically notes that he did not expect such frankness from adults near a child. Despite this, he tries to distract himself with thoughts, recalling the magic spell Material Exchange. The protagonist, lying in his crib, experiments with magic, casting a spell on a stuffed bear. Concentrating, he commands it to move. And to his surprise, the toy actually begins to move. He notes with interest that he did it faster than his father, and suggests that perhaps he has a natural talent for magic. He thinks about his soft baby hands as he watches the spell take effect. The protagonist decides to use the nighttime, when his parents are busy with each other, to practice magic. He understands that constant use of spells can deplete mana and even harm health, so he intends to practice in doses. At the same time, he discovers another skill in himself, teleportation, with which he can move objects, for example, into a trash can. He reflects on the fact that despite his childish body, inside he remains an adult. The hero remembers how his childhood went. One day, his mother conducts a magical measurement of his abilities. First, she prepares with concentration, then, putting her hand on her son, begins the process. The results stuns her. His magical power is 496 MO, which causes her genuine delight. The protagonist recalls how he trained diligently in magic from an early age, adhering to the principle, regular exercise with mandatory rest periods. He applied this approach to magical skills in the same way as physical training, and found that it really worked. Now, at the age of 10, he has the highest magical power among his generation. He shares his thoughts on training with magic and tells how, after explaining his method to his mother, he received skepticism in response. She considered it nonsense. Despite this, he continues to believe that magical power has limits, and excessive loads can lead to problems. He later calmly agrees to lend his golem to a group of people whose carriage has broken down, showing his goodwill and willingness to help. He demonstrates his ability to create a golem, a magical creature that forms instantly when given natural materials such as wood, earth, or ore, and can serve as a useful tool. The hero tells about the village of Melia, a quiet, developing settlement with a population of about 200 people. The hero says that as the village's population grew, more food was needed, which meant more farmers. So to help, he uses golem creation magic, assembling it from the surrounding stones. He can even create stone hands separately to collect small objects. Despite their large size, the golems work for a long time thanks to their powerful magical power. His mother admires his resourcefulness, and the hero himself notes that even his previous carefree life turned out to be useful, a skill he developed by combining knowledge from games and anime. The hero accepts praise for creating a large golem that can work for several hours with restraint. The locals admire his abilities and ask for help, calling him boy, which irritates him. He already feels like an adult. Despite his outward calm, inside he is happy, because after the lonely life of a recluse in the past world, he is pleased to feel the attention and recognition of others. The protagonist feels happy that he ended up in this village. His knowledge from the past world inspires him to achieve great goals. He wants to turn a small F-rank village into a large city that will be marked on all maps. Full of determination, he promises himself to achieve this in order to benefit the people around him. Enid responds enthusiastically to the call and confidently climbs the slope, wondering how far he can go in his new life. He is excited about the opportunity to start over and intends to live this life to the fullest. The protagonist's sister happily reports that the medical indicators are ready. She energetically addresses him, holding a folder with documents in her hands. The young man thanks his younger sister Amelia for the work she has done. The girl is happy with the praise, sincerely expressing her gratitude to her brother. The hero reflects on how his existence has changed since his reincarnation. Now he has a caring family and the opportunity to enjoy his new life. A young man talks about his sister Amelia. It turns out that she is not his biological sister. Her parents died in an accident, and she was taken in by the main character's family. Despite the lack of blood ties, he considers her his real sister and wants to take care of her. The parents tried to hide the fact that she was adopted, but even as a child, he understood everything. He talks about his father, Lord Keynes, the only doctor in Melia Village. When the hero is not busy with magical training with his mother, he helps his father at the clinic. Although he does not rely on him for everything, he admits that his father is a really good and respected doctor. Enid, together with a doctor, examines a patient with severe gangrene on his right leg, the result of a snake bite. The patient panics when he learns that they want to amputate his leg, but the doctor explains that without amputation he could die. The hero notes that the level of medicine in this world is quite low, which emphasizes the seriousness of the situation. Due to the high cost of potions and the lack of mages capable of healing, people often turn to doctors. Despite their low reputation, doctors continue to save lives, and a patient facing a severe form of gangrene decides to trust them, realizing that he has no other choice. The young hero and his sister prepare for surgery. In conditions where anesthesia does not yet exist, they use magic spells to immobilize the patient and put him into a deep sleep. This is necessary to avoid fatal pain shock. After preparation, the team begins amputating the infected limb. After the successful operation, the mortality rate among patients dropped significantly. The heroes began wearing white coats and washing them daily, which significantly improved hygiene. They also introduced sterilization of instruments using heat treatment. The patient who underwent amputation quickly recovered, and the boy proudly shared that he had learned this knowledge from television programs in his past life. The protagonist shares his knowledge of medicine with the villagers. At first, the people around him were skeptical about the ideas of hygiene and cleanliness, but statistics showed noticeable improvements. One of the innovations was the production and free distribution of soap, which has now become an important part of village life. Villagers are gradually beginning to realize the benefits of the soap, which was initially given away for free. People note that it cleans the skin well, gives a pleasant smell, and is more economical than other products. Delight and interest lead to a rapid increase in sales. The product becomes so popular that it quickly sells out. The boy explains to his father that soap production can not only improve hygiene but also significantly affect the village economy. He himself suggested setting up this production because before that there was no industry in the village. The father agrees, surprised by the popularity of the idea, and is glad that he listened to his son. Although financial gain is also important, the boy's main goal was to develop and improve life in the village. It is emphasized that there is a lot of water in Melia, unlike other regions, which allows it to be actively used to maintain hygiene. Washing with soap becomes the first step to improving public health. The author of the story recalls that in the history of mankind, there were serious pandemics of cholera, plague caused by poor sanitation. By improving hygiene, mortality and disease can be significantly reduced. He says that everything he does is for the sake of improving the health of the villagers and developing local industry. Confident in the rightness of his chosen path, he strives to turn the village into a prosperous place. His father supports this opinion, and his sister, watching from the door, admires his speech. His younger sister happily announced the celebration, gathering guests and relatives around. The hero was congratulated by friends and acquaintances, including a girl named Irina, whose appearance pleasantly surprised him. He thanked his sister Amelia for her efforts in organizing the event, noting that she had tried her best. On this day, he turned 11 years old. The protagonist's sister happily hugged him, emphasizing that she was trying for him. The hero noticed that she was doing this especially for him which made him embarrassed. Later, it became known that over the past year his magical power had grown to 600 units, and this surprised the adults. The teenager managed to increase the indicator by as much as 100 points. However, the hero himself modestly believed that his skills and knowledge were still far from perfect, despite the fact that he was already recognized as a magician with the greatest power in the world. Amelia remembered with admiration that her brother now had 600 magic points, and wondered if he had become stronger than the court magician Marlin himself. His mother, overhearing their conversation, tried to bring her son back to reality, explaining that strength without knowledge and skills is not a guarantee of success. Then the girl added that she heard amazing news Marlin recently rejuvenated and even changed his gender. Enid was shocked by this information and considered it something incredible, how it was possible to turn from an elderly man into a 10-year-old girl. The heroes continued to discuss Marlin, marveling at his eccentricity. He happily wore girls' clothes and even thought about changing his name. His mother interrupted the conversation in irritation, calling him a stupid old man, and turned her attention to a gift sent by the Howe family to Wood. Enid was surprised to hear that this was his mother's family. Enid was surprised to receive an expensive magical tool as a gift. He believed that his mother's family had long since lost contact with them. His mother explained that during her youth, there was a war between the Aeas Empire and the Runatia Kingdom, and her marriage to her father was not officially recognized. As a result, she left her family for love. Enid accidentally learned from the maid Luna that his mother's family, despite the long rift, regularly received letters about his successes. It turned out that they wanted to return Enid to the main family. However, his mother suspected hidden motives, because in her letters she emphasized only his magical abilities. Amelia was glad that her brother could become a link between the two families. Enid tried on the magic glasses and asked those around him how he looked in them. Amelia was embarrassed, not knowing how to answer at first, but then admitted that it suited him very well, and she liked it. Enid began to talk about the functions of the magic glasses, which outwardly were no different from ordinary ones. He read that the glasses allow you to see through walls and clothes, recognize spirits and ghosts, and can also be used as a magical weapon. Hearing this, he involuntarily thought about how he would now be able to see what girls look like without clothes. Enid, impressed by the quote perspective function that allows him to see through clothes, decided that since he was a man, it would be stupid not to take advantage of this opportunity. He activated the ability, intending to test it out in practice, without hiding his aroused interest. The main character looked at the two girls, paying attention to their appearance. The character used a special device and continued to check its actions. However, when trying to direct it at his own mother, he did not feel anything new and only experienced disappointment. At the same time, the woman felt awkward, as if someone was watching her, and this aroused her suspicions. The characters were discussing a situation where the young hero used a magical item with a, quote, perspective function. His actions embarrassed the girl, especially considering their previous experience of bathing together. He tried to justify himself by assuring that he did not see anything indecent, but this caused an awkward reaction from those present. After the, quote, perspective ability was disabled, the boy became upset and expressed his dissatisfaction. His sister tried to support him, reminding him that he should not be sad. She also sheepishly made it clear that she was willing to be frank with him if it would make him happier. The boy tried to justify his use of the magical artifact and said that he was not interested in the girls in his family, adding that he wanted to test it on others. The girl laughed it off at first, but then became clearly upset by his words. The girl, very angry, hit the boy, shouting an accusation. He was stunned and did not understand what he got it for. The others tried to understand the situation, but the girl herself could not clearly explain the reason for her outburst. The morning for Enid began early. He was actively training, controlling the gargoyles. One of the villagers thanked him for his help, to which the boy modestly replied that there was no need to worry. It was just good practice for him. Enid continued his morning, practicing his skills with the gargoyles, who had been assigned to deliver letters to the nearby village of Nuji. One of the locals asked him to deliver another letter, and the boy, after carefully reciting the addresses, sent the winged assistant on his way. The people present watched the process with admiration. In the village of Ennida, the postal service and sewing work are becoming increasingly popular thanks to the efforts of young Enid. The locals thank him for his help and also speak warmly of Amelia, calling her an angel for her kindness and participation, especially in writing letters. Few people in the village can read or write, so Amelia often helps her fellow villagers by reading letters to them or writing them on their behalf. Enid muses about working in the afternoons, noting that their mother instilled in them a love of learning from childhood, whether it was simple speech or oratory. Enid is amazed by the capabilities of the magic glasses. They allow him to clearly see even distant objects, which is especially useful when training in levitation, which he is not yet strong in. Thanks to the clairvoyance function, he can rest a little during the flight, and the mentor reminds him that the technique of performing spells plays an important role. Enid is surprised to see her father and Dutton patrolling the forest. Although her father acts as the village's law enforcement officer, he is still not to be trusted. At the same time, Dutton, despite his dwarf height, is incredibly strong, having once managed to knock down a saber-toothed tiger with a single blow. Enid decides to try changing the mode of the magic glasses to a new one. Meanwhile, he notices that his father can barely hold a sword properly. By switching to sensitivity, Enid gains the ability to see spirits and ghosts who now surround him like fairies in a magical atmosphere. He is amazed to see that this is a real sylph, an air spirit. Although he can see spirits with his magic glasses, interacting with them is strictly forbidden. At the same time, it is revealed that there is a religion in the AIA's empire called the Church of True Magic, which believes that spirits are evil creatures. The young man is surprised that the spirits look beautiful and noble, not at all like the church imagines them to be. He notices that one of the wind spirits is different from the others. It is also told that on the new continent, many people revere the spirits and use their power. However, they have a strict rule. When you come to us, follow our rules, which means recognizing and respecting the indigenous customs and communication with their spirits. Enid for a moment, as if trying to say something, but soon simply flies away. Enid is slightly confused, but relieved that he has not become attached to her. He then switches his magic glasses to far-sightedness, to observe something in the sky. Enid watches with alarm as a creature called Rook, a large magical creature that feeds on humans and humanoid creatures, appears in the sky. He notices that the Rook is heading towards the village of Melid, which is unusual, as such creatures do not usually appear near populated areas. He watches the Rook and realizes the seriousness of the threat. If he doesn't intervene, creatures like Buckbeak could die. Despite the danger, he can't just stand by. With determination, he activates the attack mode in his magic glasses, which are equipped with a homing function. Enid activates the attack mode of his magic glasses, shouting, "Magic Clearsight!" His face transforms with determination as he aims at the enemy. At that moment, a burst of energy erupts from the glasses, heading towards Rook, frightening even the allied Buckbeaks. The bird encounters a magical barrier that suddenly appears. The shield emits a bright glow, stopping the attacker in mid-air. The protagonist watches this with obvious surprise and alarm, not expecting such an intervention. The bespectacled boy watches in amazement as the magical shield reflects the attack, something he thinks is impossible for a normal magical bird. However, the creature begins to rapidly approach him, changing its direction of flight. The hero looks anxiously towards the village, realizing that if things continue in the same spirit, the danger will soon reach the inhabitants. The boy concentrates magical energy through special glasses and activates the attack, hoping for success. However, he again encounters a magical shield that reflects the blow. Despite the tension, the creature comes closer and closer, and it becomes clear that the glasses' protection is on the edge. An attempt to attack through the magic glasses is unsuccessful. The shield works again. The hero realizes, in front of him is a prehistoric rock, considered extinct and reaching more than 30 meters in length. Enid realizes that the rock in front of him is larger than all known specimens, which reached a maximum of 18.5 meters and has a magical shield. He guesses that this discovery is connected with the new continent. Inwardly, he decides to stop the monster at any cost, because otherwise his loved ones will die too. He remembers his family, everyone who is dear to him and lives in Melia. Inside, he is seething with determination. He will not allow all this to be destroyed before his eyes. His determination becomes a shield against the impending threat. Determined to protect his family and the village, Enid activates the spell, releasing mana. He is ready to deliver the finishing blow right now, without hesitation. The young man, having gathered all his strength, resolutely directs the attack towards the enemy. He is ready to sacrifice all his mana for the sake of victory, because his loved ones are at stake. The spell is released, and the boy watches its outcome with hope. The boy holds the spell with his last strength, directing the flow of mana into the attack. The giant bird trembles under the onslaught of magic, and it becomes clear that victory is near. Everything is decided by the last push of will. At the peak of tension, the boy screamed for him to die quickly, putting all the rage and fear. After the final blow, the boy's magic reaches its target. The ancient beast falls, defeated. The hero's strength leaves him, but relief and victory are reflected on his face. After a grueling fight with a powerful magical creature, the hero finds himself on the verge of complete exhaustion. Having used up all his mana, he loses the ability to move and begins to sink into helplessness, feeling pain, fear, and the approach of death. His mind is filled with panic. He mentally and aloud calls for someone to help. At this point, his companions, realizing that he can no longer move, rush to him in horror to save him. The exhausted hero, collapsed after the battle, finds himself in his father's arms. Barely aware of what is happening, he calls for help while his father comforts him, holding him tightly. Panic gives way to relief when his family is nearby. The father, overcome with emotion, rushes to help, lifting his exhausted son into his arms. He calls his son his treasure and asks to save him at any cost. The hero, weakened after a difficult battle, finally finds himself in safe hands. In the pouring rain, he is handed over to the old man, who carefully holds him close to himself, while others around him anxiously watch what is happening. The old man watches in horror as the water carries Enid's father's body toward the waterfall. A boy standing nearby watches in shock. The realization of danger grips everyone. If they don't intervene immediately, the father will die, falling off the cliff. The situation is rapidly spiraling out of control. Enid desperately calls out for her father, unable to accept the fact that he might die. His cry breaks the silence, but the current inexorably carries the man toward the cliff. Her father, already half in the water, smiles weakly, as if saying goodbye, while Enid's eyes fill with tears. The fear of loss becomes unbearable. He stands in the rain, staring into space with tears in his eyes. He realizes the cost of the sacrifice his father made and cannot contain the pain. His gaze is filled with bitterness and guilt. If it weren't for him, nothing would have happened. The old man in the hat kneels down and, turning to the boy, acknowledges his father's action as an act of true male courage. From afar, an unknown figure watches what is happening, lurking in the shadows. In the pouring rain, when all seemed lost, a tiny figure appears. Sylph looks at the unconscious father of Enid with a surprised expression and tried to save him. Sylph, watching the events, tells of her unexpected day. She met a bespectacled man who could see spirits, who defeated a giant bird with a laser from his magic glasses. She found this so amazing that she decided to stay by his side. In addition, she said that she caught the man who saved the bespectacled man. Sylph, following her motto, a good deed a day, did not hesitate to intervene and help, getting right into the heart of the events. Sylph flinches sharply when two massive figures, the ancient Buckbeak's Fowl and Iglis, appear before her. One of them apologizes for startling her. However, Sylph immediately gives a defensive reaction. She states that if they came as touts, salesmen, or representatives of religious cults, then her answer is a decisive no. The Buckbeaks are perplexed, not understanding why she said this. She is surprised to see the Beakwings mentioning the same bespectacled man who recently saved her. One of the Beakwings politely but directly states that he would like to take this man. Sylph immediately becomes wary, taking this as an attempt to capture, but it turns out that the bird warriors are talking about gratitude. They want to take him to the village to thank him for saving them, because they consider themselves obligated and loyal out of honor. Sometime after the turbulent events, Enid wakes up in bed, surrounded by family and friends. His father, alive and well, and his mother greet him with a warm smile. Enid, having recovered from a difficult battle, lies in bed next to her sister Amelia. The girl is happy that everyone is safe, and her father is saved. Sylph watches them with affection and relief, noting that the bespectacled man is fine. Enid remembers seeing this item before and is amazed that such powerful artifacts can be received as a token of gratitude. At this time, Amelia shares a story. The Beakwings would like to visit the village again and regretted that they could not thank him in person. He thought that the presence of a connection with celestial beings and with the beaked-winged creatures themselves gave this special importance. The fairy watches the children with mockery as they discuss the fact that, judging by the sounds, the adults are now actively busy with something. She considers them naive, watching from the bushes, and decides to continue following the bespectacled man until she gets tired of it. The boy with glasses clenches his fist and releases a powerful magical attack that hits the targets on the training ground with force. The resulting flash and explosion completely destroys the targets. He stands before them visibly tired and notes that restoring his magical energy is not easy for him, and the targets are literally riddled with holes, with not a single intact section left. A bespectacled boy, looking scruffy after training, stands next to the beaked wings, with whom he has clearly established friendly relations. He is surprised by the cheerful exclamations of the little fairy, who is either joking or commenting on his progress. He is clearly trying and training a lot, but so far there is no sign of much progress. The boy enthusiastically joins a group of beakwings who have gathered for a hunt. One of them, armed with a spear, clearly has high hopes for the young companion. All participants are serious. The goal of the mission seems important. The little fairy watches from the sidelines, realizing that the hunt is aimed at a huge bird that once brought harm to people, and now the moment of reckoning has come. The young wizard confidently agrees to the upcoming operation, because this time he has experienced allies Fall and Iglis with him. He is determined not to let them down, and Buckbeak confirms that they are already close to the nest. The little fairy notes his reliability with approval. The fairy notices a flock of flying beakwings in the sky, and assumes that they are the protectors of the huge eggs that have just been found. The young wizard, dressed in a helmet, robe, gloves, and glasses, checks his readiness for the upcoming mission. He has taken on a bird-like appearance to make the task easier, which causes surprise and admiration in the fairy watching him. The fairy is surprised to see that a flock of beakwings has already taken off while she was distracted. One of the beakwings points to a target in the sky. The protagonist, wearing a helmet and robe, is preparing for action with a serious expression. The fairy announces that she will be the commentator of what is happening. The protagonist activates a magical ability, and a bright light bursts out from his glasses. The fairy shields her eyes from the blinding flash. The light is triggered, and the buckbeaks in the sky begin to disorient. The protagonist gives the signal to act, and two buckbeak allies, Fall and Iglis, instantly respond, preparing to attack. A battle erupts in the air as a huge rock suddenly attacks with a glittering flurry of feathers, sparing even its allies. One of the beakwings, Fall, tries to intervene but is too late. He is pierced by feathers and killed. The companions are shocked by the rock's betrayal. Meanwhile, another beakwing clutches a magic stone, vows not to let Enid down, and resolutely enters the battle. One of the beakwings activates a powerful spell, a magical shield formed with the help of air spirits. Several small fairies appear around it, each of which strengthens the defense with a complex magical construction. The fairy girl is surprised to realize that she was not called to help by chance, and resolutely joins the defense. The fairy, clutching a large white feather, recalls a mysterious voice she has heard before. This feather seems important to her, as if it is connected to some kind of magic. Suddenly, one of the beakwings, overcome with battle fervor, rushes into the attack, not holding back the onslaught. It rushes forward with purpose, piercing the air, striving to collide with the enemy face to face. Buckbeak, driven by his fighting instinct, rushes into the attack, swinging his spear. He deftly dodges the blows and quickly approaches the enemy. With a precise and powerful thrust, he strikes, piercing the enemy in an instant. The fairy watches with admiration and realizes that the fight was over in a split second. The enemy was instantly defeated. Buckbeak and the bespectacled man notice that there is one more enemy left and prepare for the finishing blow. At this moment, the fairy watches with alarm as a strong gust of wind carries someone away. One of the buckbeaks turns to the wind spirit with a plea for help, asking for strength. A powerful tornado begins to form in the sky. This is the spell Great Hurricane, summoned for the final attack. The bespectacled man, dressed in armor and a robe, easily lifts a giant boulder over his head. The fairy watches in amazement, anticipating a new trick from him. The boy, completely focused, uses space-time magic and throws a huge boulder down with incredible force. He rushes through the sky with a scream, turning the attack into a technique called Meteo Strike, as if he himself becomes a living meteorite. A huge boulder falls with devastating force on the giant bird, crushing it beneath it. From above, a boy in a helmet calmly watches the result, and the fairy beams with delight. The enemy is defeated, and now everyone can breathe a little sigh of relief. After a successful battle, the boy thanks for the materials provided, handing over the magic bag of trophies to Buckbeak. He explains that he recently joined the Hunters Guild, where he only gets 70% of the loot, while in this situation he got all 90%, since it was a prehistoric rock. Buckbeak is pleased with the result, and the fairy notes that the bespectacled boy has now become a real rock catcher. Despite the cost of fixing his glasses, the village is still a winner. The young man receives a rock feather as a gift as a token of gratitude. He is told that this is a special artifact that can help with the magic of spirits. During prayer, it changes color and shows which spirit is compatible with the owner and how great his power is. The feather in the bespectacled boy's hands begins to glow golden, which causes admiration among those present. One of the Beakwings explains that this is a sign of high compatibility with the spirit of air. The boy realizes with interest that his power is connected with this element. The little fairy, although a little jealously, confirms that they are indeed compatible, but jokingly asks him to do without unnecessary tricks in the future. The fairy says goodbye to the boy, flying away into the sky and sensing that their paths will cross again. She is sure that by that time his spiritual power will become even stronger, she noting to herself that she probably had a girly sixth sense going on. The boy looks around in bewilderment, wondering if he is imagining things, because all day long he seems to hear voices. In the evening, already at home, he opens the box with trophies and, stretching from fatigue, notes that the day was eventful. The catch was excellent. Behind his back, a fairy quietly looks into the night window, watching him. The fairy, seeing the feather, shows great interest in it and, without thinking twice, decides to take it with her and asks his permission. The fairy notices his silent consent and happily takes it as a sign of approval. The fairy, taking off with the feather, indulges in thoughts about how pleasant it is for her to be near him. The stage of the festival dedicated to female beauty is in a state of excitement, the audience is delighted, everyone is waiting with curiosity for the appearance of the last participant. At this moment, Kara Crane appears, refined and calm, with a soft smile and graceful gait. Her image immediately attracts attention, and admiring glances and whispers are heard among those gathered. She is considered not just beautiful, but one of the most outstanding girls in these parts. At the Festival of Female Beauty, the audience was introduced to participants of two age categories. Young contestants, representing the age of 10 to 19, appeared before the public as symbols of tenderness and purity. Among them were heiresses of noble houses, nuns, and students. In the adult group, more mature participants performed, each of whom radiated confidence and attractiveness. Among them was a noble lady and a charismatic barker from a tavern. At the Venaria Festival, there came a moment when the participants from Melia Village took the stage. Among them were pure-blooded elves whose beauty knew no age limit. Among them, Luna, the maid and nanny from the Crane House, stood out, possessing elegance and calmness. Kara attracted special attention. Despite her age, she looked surprisingly young, which caused admiration among the audience. At the request of the city mayor, Yoon Iby invited them to take part in the beauty contest. Kara was getting ready to go on stage, feeling nervous. At that moment, her husband, Kaines, spoke to her in an encouraging tone, letting her know that she could handle it, because for him, she was the most beautiful not only on the entire continent, but in the entire world. Kara, touched by his words, was a little embarrassed, but her mood clearly became lighter. One of the observers noted to himself that at that moment it seemed as if there were only the two of them left in the world. The brother knocked on the door, asking if Amelia was ready, because the competition was about to start any minute. He wondered if she had managed to change her clothes. Hearing a voice from the other side, he realized that she was still hesitating. The girl, embarrassed, slowly walked out, tightly clutching the edge of her dress, and almost in despair admitted that she considered the clothes terribly shameful. Amelia was nervous about going on stage and was overcome with uncertainty because there were many spectators ahead. Her brother tried to cheer her up, saying that, in his opinion, she was the most beautiful not only on the entire continent, but in the world. He assured her that she had nothing to be afraid of, gently placing his hand on her head. Amelia, hearing these words, she was shocked and embarrassed. And he, slightly embarrassed, added that he simply repeated the words that he had once heard from their parents. Amelia, hearing her brother's words that she was the most beautiful in the world, was at first embarrassed, but then cheered up and promised to try. His support touched her to the depths of her soul, and she enthusiastically decided to go on stage. Meanwhile, her brother himself noted with relief to himself how easily she succumbed to praise. However, at that very moment, an unexpected turn occurred. Someone suddenly pounced on him with a scream, calling him by name. Erna and Sue suddenly ran up to the main character, wrapping themselves around him from both sides, each hoping to hear words of support from him. While one was asking how she looked, the other was demanding the same attention and approval. The guy was confused, not knowing how to react to their obsessive initiative, and Amelia, watching this from the side, could not stand it, and with a break in her voice demanded that he encourage her louder and more sincerely. While Enid was trying to deal with the influx of attention from several contestants at once, each of whom demanded support specifically for herself, the host had already announced the continuation of the festival and the next category of participants: youth. At that moment, a new girl named Sabrina confidently walked onto the stage, greeting everyone with a wide smile. Kynes, with a slight reproach, noted that Enid was late, to which he awkwardly admitted. While the audience discussed the contestants from other cities, marveling at how cute they were, Sabrina confidently urged everyone to vote for her. Someone in the crowd mentioned that she was the niece of the Earl himself. Meanwhile, the host announced the next contestant, and Amelia Crane walked onto the stage to glitter in anticipation. Her appearance caused a stormy reaction in the hall. The audience was amazed by her appearance and expressed admiration in unison. Someone in the crowd even noted that she looked great. Surprised and delighted comments were heard in the hall. Some could not help but notice the peculiarities of her outfit, and some tried to collect their thoughts so as not to be distracted. Amelia shyly continued her speech, introducing herself as a representative of the village of Melia. She spoke with sincere delight about her native land, emphasizing that everything in her village is wonderful, from nature to people. Amelia spoke with special warmth about her closest ones, her parents, and especially about her older brother. Her words sounded sincere and touching. She noted that he has a kind heart and always takes care of his native village. The girl added that her brother attentively teaches her magic, and at that time, someone in the hall even noticed how glasses suit him, and that he is handsome even without them. Amelia confessed her feelings with sincere enthusiasm, telling about what a wonderful person she considers her older brother. Her face was shining with joy, and without hiding her emotions, she openly said that she loved him. This frankness caused shock to her brother, who did not expect to hear such words in public. The scene touched the audience. Some were impressed by her cuteness. Others admired her sincerity, and some immediately decided to vote for her in the competition. The father suggests they take a short walk before the results are announced, and the boy happily agrees. The two girls then discuss the voting, and she notices with alarm that the contestant they were talking about is standing in front of her. She whispers to her friend that she should have thrown out the ballots of the other contestants. The young man assumes that the mysterious girl came from the edge of darkness, and his companion clarifies she is probably a Cambion. It is said that Cambions are born with a crystal in their forehead and have magic, and many of them are enslaved. The girl is confused by the crowd, but her friend urges her to act. The man steps forward with cold determination and stands between the frightened Cambion and the attackers. He defends her without a shadow of a doubt. Sabrina is outraged and cannot believe that someone interfered. She accuses him of recklessness. However, the man, without looking away, confidently says that he considers his decision fair and correct. Sabrina angrily tries to assert her power over the Cambion girl, claiming that she is hers. However, during her outburst, soft pads fall out from under her clothes. One of the onlookers, picking them up, realizes that her appearance has been embellished. Sabrina, realizing that what has happened, reveals the deception, blushes, and is speechless with shame. Sabrina, filled with anger and humiliation, loses her composure and, in a fit of emotion, loudly declares that she is firing the Cambion girl, demanding that she be taken away immediately. While the conflict between Crane and Sabrina was flaring up, the girls from the village of Melia managed to win recognition at the Venaria festival. Melia won in 3 nominations at once, which caused the admiration of the public and brought fame to her house. Reporters are interested in what the secret of their beauty is. After interviewing the festival winners, where they shared their secret of beauty, daily use of their own soap, the demand for their products grew rapidly. This attracted many new settlers, thanks to which Melia turned from a village into a full-fledged city. The main character is also not lagging behind in development. He turned 12 years old and he reached 700 mana points. A new maid appeared in the mansion, a beautiful girl from the land of darkness named Mizari. She was introduced to the others, noting that she would now work as a maid. Mizari modestly thanked for saving her, reminding them of her past as a slave. Mizari, despite her beauty, seemed too gloomy to those around her. She was fond of magic and studying spells, including Cambion magic, which was forbidden. Kara explained that the ban was due to the fact that such magic weakens the power of magical crystals. Enid did not know about this and was reminded that he should study more. Father, in turn, accepted Mizari, who was previously rejected. Kara explains that Cambion magic does not affect mana, and that superstition is not encouraged in their country. The man emphasizes that cruelty to slaves is unacceptable in this house. Mizari, deeply touched by the concern, resolutely promises to do everything for the master who saved her. Mizari, having accepted her new role, promises to work hard both day and night. However, her words suddenly take on an ambiguous tone, causing confusion among those around her. The man tried to tactfully steer the conversation away, reminding her that the work of a maid, this is already more than enough. Young woman continuing to speak ambiguously, she offers to reward the gentleman at night, causing a chain reaction of embarrassment and awkwardness among everyone present. Kara restrainedly but sternly tries to stop her, and the children in a panic warn that if she does not stop, their mother will definitely intervene. The man suddenly kisses Kara, shocking everyone present. The children and Mizari freeze with their eyes wide open in surprise. He calmly declares that he has no concubines and does not use servants for such purposes. Kane says with a gentle smile that he can't love anyone but his wife, which deeply touches Kara. She turns away in embarrassment, blushing with emotion. Meanwhile, the children watch the scene, Amelia delighted by the romance of the moment, and the boy is serious and demands an apology, like a child put in an awkward position. Mizari is doing her housework with concentration, waving her pen. The young man watches her from the side, noting her diligence, and looking at this, he cannot help but feel embarrassed at the way her body moves with every movement. Mizari tries his best to reach the top shelf, jumping up and down with a feather in his hand, but to no avail. The boy, watching her efforts, he remembers that by entrusting her with cleaning such a place, he seemed to have overestimated her capabilities. Mizari, looking down, leaves, feeling useless. Mizari, holding the bottle tightly in her hand, reflects with a heavy heart on her hopelessness. If she can't be with him, then she will do something else. Enid, meanwhile, smiles and runs alongside Kara, who gives him stern instructions, reminding him that his technique still needs to be improved. Enid wholeheartedly agrees with the instructions, but suddenly senses something amiss and turns around, catching a disturbing aura. Enid suddenly hears someone calling him. The voice sounds very clear, although there is no one around. He turns around in surprise, feeling a strange premonition. At that moment, the girl, worried, runs to him. In the distance, he notices his house engulfed in flames. Bright flames and smoke rise into the sky, a sight that shocks everyone around. At the same time, Mizari lies next to the man. The little fairy panics when she notices that the house of the OCHK Arika is engulfed in flames. She soon begins to worry and decides to ask the other sylphs for help. Her scream causes a reaction. One of the girls wonders why they should care, but another offers to help save people from the fire. The fairy, not hiding her emotions, bursts into tears. explaining that an important person lives in this house. The touchingness of her words melts the hearts of the others, and they agree. Inwardly, she is happy that her crybaby strategy worked. The fairy enthusiastically calls her comrades forward to help with the fire. Her determination is contagious to the others. She even promises to try her best herself. Flames engulf the building, turning the once tranquil mansion into a disaster area. Several people below watch in silent horror. A boy, especially shaken, peers into the flames. Enid tried to remain calm, suppressing the excitement that had gripped him at the sight of the fire. He tried to think logically, remembering that some of the family members had to be missing. However, the thought that his father and Mizari might have been inside the house suddenly struck him. Kara ran in with an anxious expression, shouting her husband's name. The younger girl, worried, rushed after her brother, but he suddenly stopped, lost in thought. He decided that their mother was capable of handling herself, and so he did not interfere. He worriedly stated that the fire could spread and stressed the need to urgently save the mansion. Enid assessed the situation and instructed her to help the wounded with healing magic and stay nearby. He himself firmly decided to put out the fire, watching the burning house. The boy realized with alarm that the fire was spreading quickly and could soon spread to neighboring buildings. Realizing that without intervention, the restoration of Melio would be impossible, she anxiously shared her fears. In response, Enid confidently promised to do everything possible and asked her to believe in him. Amelia watched in awe as her brother took to the skies, determined to put out the fire. He figured he'd have to buy himself some time before his weather control skill kicked in. The boy floating in the sky realized that he had very little time. He mentally went through the available spells, trying to choose the most effective one to fight the fire. In the end, he decided to start with the summoning of the water dragon, and then immediately activate the creation of the golem to enhance the effect. The boy floated in the air, standing confidently on the back of a huge water dragon created by his magic. The creature's scales shimmered in the light, and around them waves rippled, ready to crash into the flames. His gaze was determined. He was going to save his home at any cost. He raised his hand with concentration and gave the command. A huge water dragon, swirling from streams of water, obediently rushed forward, cutting through the air. A huge water dragon, created by magic, was rapidly approaching the fire. The people below watched its flight in amazement, not believing their eyes. The girl, amazed by the scale of the creature, only had time to follow what was happening. The boy, standing on the dragon's back, looked focused and confident. He knew that there were no more than 5 minutes left, and the salvation of the house depended on him. The young mage riding the water dragon was determined to protect the places dear to him. He concentrated, and the giant creature made of water opened its mouth. A powerful stream of water burst out of it with a roar, and the dragon released a water breath aimed straight at the center of the blazing fire. The young wizard who managed to stop the fire with the help of the water dragon found himself in the center of everyone's delight. People joyfully surrounded him, expressing gratitude, and the girl with 2 ponytails rushed to him with hugs. Her eyes were shining with tears of relief and pride. She believed from the very beginning that he would cope. Although the young mage managed to put out the fire with the help of the water dragon, the consequences were devastating. The building he was trying to save was almost completely destroyed. He felt guilty for what happened, believing that he had failed to control his power. However, those around him, seeing his efforts and sincerity, did not allow him to be discouraged, trying to support and console him. Despite the fact that the house was destroyed in the process of extinguishing the fire, the surrounding people treated it with understanding. Everyone acknowledged that thanks to the actions of the young magician, it was possible to avoid much worse consequences. Local residents assured that they would help with the repairs, and the boy himself, slightly embarrassed, admitted that the destruction was an accidental but still successful mistake. Kara froze while her naked husband and girlfriend were peacefully sleeping on the bed, cuddled up to each other. The situation clearly caught everyone by surprise and caused a stir. After the unexpected sight of a couple sleeping on a bed in the open air, one of the characters recalled seeing the bed moved from the house to the garden. A girl in traditional clothing confidently pointed out that it was the work of the spirits of the air who moved the sleeping couple, helping them to get out. The girl spoke respectfully of the spirits, calling them wise and wonderful. The protagonist thought that they should thank the spirits for helping their father, but they couldn't do it openly. they were still considered evil. Meanwhile, the fairy was contentedly enjoying the magical item she had borrowed. After the events that had taken place, everyone was temporarily sheltered in the deputy mayor's mansion. Father and Mizari had not regained consciousness for 3 days, probably due to the effects of a strong sleeping pill. Kara makes him soup and says with a smile that she can't feed him until he wakes up. However, her look and behavior make it clear that something is wrong with her. Her reality is distorted. Watching this, the heroes begin to fear for her condition. The boy discussed that they might have attempted to commit double suicide. Amalia was deeply shocked by the accusations and, unable to contain her emotions, exclaimed that she could only do this to her brother, thereby hinting at the inadmissibility of accusations against her. Realizing that emotions were running high, the heroes decided to focus on the main thing, finding out the cause of the fire. They divided the duties, and together with Amalia began the investigation, waiting for the father and Mizari to regain consciousness. During the investigation, alarming facts were revealed. Mizari was the center of suspicion. Based on the evidence collected, someone had prepared the ingredients for a strong sleeping pill in advance, collecting them on the Surila plain and buying firewood from a local lumberjack. Everything pointed to her. When the heroes presented her with this information, she confirmed it with a reserved, but without resistance, silent agreement. Mizari confessed to what she had done. She was the one who set the mansion on fire. The girl had put the sleeping pill into the owner's drink, put him to bed, lay down next to him, and drank the rest too. Her goal was to leave with him, becoming one even in death. She did not deny her actions and confessed with complete confidence, despite the looks of those around her. After Mizari confessed to setting the mansion on fire and attempting to poison her, she was given a harsh sentence. According to the laws of Aes, she would be executed after 3 days of torture. The sentence was merciless for 2 serious crimes. Her body was to be put on public display outside the city as a deterrent to others. Kara tells Mizari with cold determination that she won't be able to die just like that. She must take full responsibility for her actions. Mizari, overcome with fear and guilt, only weakly agrees. Kynes asks for Mizari's punishment to be lightened and for the brutal tortures used in Melia to be abandoned. His action shocks everyone, including Mizari herself, who cries, thanks him and calls him master. Kynes faces criticism for his softness. Kara, the acting judge, reproaches him that leniency towards criminals can lead to chaos in the city. She reminds him that he is the highest level of justice and must act strictly. Even the boy admits that she is right, realizing that excessive kindness can cost him his authority. The boy has a hard time accepting the need for harsh punishments, despite the rules requiring it. He thinks that being too lenient could attract criminals from other cities and worsen security. Meanwhile, Mizari cries, realizing his guilt, but unable to accept the severity of the punishment. The young man suddenly offers an alternative to execution. He asks if it would not be better if Mizari became a guinea pig. The world is in panic over a mysterious disease resembling smallpox. This infection is extremely contagious and fatal, with almost half of those infected not surviving. Even those who manage to pull through face severe consequences, leaving deep scars and often total blindness. The disease is so terrible that people call it the devil's disease. Keynes painfully recalled that it was the tragedy that took the lives of his parents that prompted him to study medicine. His father died in terrible agony, and his mother, although she survived, was so disfigured by the disease that her body was covered in deep scars, turning every day into suffering. In the end, she could not bear it any longer and committed suicide. From that moment on, the goal of the boy's life became to find a way to destroy the disease that caused this nightmare. He confessed that his only desire was to defeat smallpox. The boy's eyes blazed with determination as he spoke of this, reminding him that he had already encountered this disease in the past. If smallpox was really as terrible in this world as it had been in his previous life, then he was not going to back down. He had to defeat it. The boy enthusiastically suggested the possibility of developing a vaccine, which shocked Keynes, who did not immediately realize that they were talking about experiments. It was suggested that Meteor become a test subject, and although this caused a tense reaction, it turned out that the laws did allow for a reprieve from the death sentence if the convict participated in medical research. If the experiments were successful, she was promised a pardon. When the boy suggested using Mizari as a test subject to save many, he noted that the townspeople would hardly be against such a decision. One of the adults asked her if she agreed to participate, and Mizari, without hesitation, gave an affirmative answer. She was touched by the mercy shown to her and, shedding tears, thanked everyone for the chance to atone for her guilt. When the decision to test the vaccine was made, one of the women noted that if everything worked out, the name of Canes would be famous throughout the world. Kara was thanked for her participation and support, and she, embarrassed, replied that this was not a merit at all. In the meantime, it was officially recorded that Mizari was appointed a test subject for the smallpox vaccine for a period of 10 years. If the result was positive, all charges against her would be dropped. This condition was included in the document as one of the points. Regarding the reprieve for Mizari, the council discussed the possibility of temporarily imprisoning her until a final decision was made by the higher authorities and the city's residents. However, the boy's father and others, moved by sympathy, decided against it. Instead of imprisonment, Kara placed a magical seal on Mizari called the Cursed Nail, which would serve as a kind of brand. Kara warned Mizari that the magical sigil Cursed Nail placed on her would change color. If she betrayed their trust again, the nail would gradually turn green. When it completely changed color, Mizari would turn into a hideous toad. Thus, Kara gave an ultimatum, making it clear that there would be no second chance. Mizari only quietly agreed in response. Mizari said that the mark on her finger was a symbol of devotion to the owner. Meanwhile, the young man was glad that the grain separator had survived. He thanked fate, because this device, along with his other inventions, was stored in the basement of the mansion, where experiments and scientific research had previously been conducted. Most of these developments had not yet been tested. The young man enthusiastically offered to try to save lives, because the experimental equipment had survived, and soon it would be possible to begin work. He was inspired by his father's desire, and his desire to help was transmitted to Enid. The man gratefully thanked the boy because he too was imbued with the goal of saving others. The boy reflected on the fact that, despite his claims to the contrary, he could not remember something important. Smallpox had long been eradicated on Earth, and he felt as if he was missing something. The thought of a vaccine tested on certain animals seemed to prompt him to something familiar from the past. But the exact memory eluded him, because 10 years had passed since his reincarnation. When the boy was lost in thought and walking without noticing where he was going, he accidentally bumped right into the chest of a novice. The woman was surprised and softly commented on what had happened, then quickly apologized for her inattention. The boy, visibly embarrassed, decided that he should be the one asking for forgiveness. In turn, the novice warmly noted that he was a good and decent boy. The novice continued to hug the boy, saying how good he was. He pressed himself against her, feeling warm and caring, like a younger brother, although in fact the age difference between them was only 3 years. From the outside, their embrace caused envy in some of the onlookers. The boy himself felt very embarrassed, especially because of the close contact with her breasts, and awkward comparisons involuntarily popped up in his head. As the boy hugged the woman, he suddenly felt an association that made him jump back. The image of a cow popped into his head, and at that moment, his memory seemed to illuminate him. He had the key word, cowpox. That was the name of the disease that played an important role in the history of vaccines. The boy suddenly realized that cowpox could be the key to solving their problem. He remembered that the disease was infectious to humans, but it did not cause serious consequences. Flying over the village of Hain, he learned from locals that there were no smallpox patients in the area, which only strengthened his confidence. Enthusiastically, he headed to the cows to see if they could indeed be carriers of a safe virus, a possible basis for a future vaccine. The girl from the village said that she had heard since childhood that if you had cowpox, the common one was no longer scary. This village north of Melia has long been engaged in dairy farming, and the health of its residents is closely linked to cows. The life of local doctors revolves around dairy products. The boy was surprised at first, because he had previously heard from the ruler that all this was just village beliefs. However, now, faced with real facts, he began to doubt. Maybe this is where the key to defeating smallpox lies. Realizing that cowpox infection could cause immunity to closely related strains, the boy became agitated, just like on Earth. He thought that he should report everything to his father first, because the information was extremely important. Then he gave orders to go to Mizari and tell her to stop tending the cows before they began to prepare her for the experiment and infection. He himself also decided to go to the village of Hain soon to continue his research. With the help of the townspeople, a new mansion was built, housing stalls for horses and cows. Mizari was entrusted with the care of the animals, which became part of the preparation for the experiments. Thanks to the father's frequent trips to the village of Haini to conduct field research, it became clear that the strain of smallpox in this world was completely analogous to the one on Earth. The scientists enthusiastically concluded that by using the cowpox virus, they could control the dangerous infection. This news gave the team hope, and even Mizari, albeit with some trepidation, agreed to participate in the further experiment. Mizari had been gradually injected with a vaccine developed from the cowpox pathogen. The dose had been increased over several weeks, and now they were at the final stage. Today, she would receive her final shot. According to calculations, her body would soon begin actively producing antibodies. All this was made possible by the work of her father. Mizari said with restraint that she was ready. She made it clear that she was willing to go through all this to save people around the world. Her participation in the experiment was called outstanding. For the sake of life, for the sake of virtue, and of course for the sake of her master, she was willing to sacrifice herself. When everything was ready, Keynes calmly announced the beginning of the procedure, taking the syringe in his hands. He gave the injection to Mizari, who was barely able to contain her anxiety. He said that the examination would be carried out later after the isolation period, since the risk of infection still remained. Keynes calmly and without hesitation declared that he too should undergo isolation. Everyone turned around in surprise when he, putting his hand to his chest, admitted he too had been vaccinated. His action caused shock. When Keynes admitted that he had also taken the vaccine, Kara cried out his name in horrified alarm. She was shocked by his reckless courage and asked him in a fit of anger what he was thinking. Keynes calmly explained that he and his father had already taken the same vaccine to ensure its safety. He had done it for Mizari, to ensure that the vaccination would be successful. Keynes calmly looks at his interlocutor and confidently declares that, of course, he must test everything on himself. He does not hesitate. The sooner they find a way to defeat the terrible smallpox, the better. Despite the fact that he points out the lack of test subjects, the man decisively answers that he wants to rid the world of this devilish disease as quickly as possible. The boy looks at Keynes and mentally admires his determination. He knows the stakes are high. Keynes has put his life on the line to stop the virus and stop people from suffering. But deep down, Enya wonders if things could go wrong. 6 months have passed. Inspired by his father's selfless dedication to saving the world, the young man decides to follow his example. He stands confidently with his hand on his chest, ready for the next step. His determination does not go unnoticed. An emotional response is heard among those present. A special day has arrived. The main character celebrated his 13th birthday, and at the same time, achieved significant progress in mana. The vaccination experiment was a success. No one fell ill, which confirmed its effectiveness. Mizari, who played an important role in this matter, was officially acquitted by the residents, but the magic spell that was cast earlier was still not removed. Kara admitted that when he heard about the young hero's intention to also get vaccinated, he felt very excited. Nevertheless, everything ended well. The team expressed gratitude to the young scientist for his theoretical contribution and unwavering support. His participation was once again decisive. Despite the successful results of the tests, victory over the virus had not yet been achieved. However, the spread of soap and the associated ideas about hygiene gradually changed people's consciousness. Ideas of cleanliness began to penetrate into everyday life, and gratitude to the young researcher became a symbol of this new stage. The protagonist smiles as he reflects on the knowledge he's inherited from his past life. He realizes that he may be exaggerating, but he believes that his efforts will one day be useful. The vaccine his father created, for which he risked his life, could save many people. Meanwhile, he plans new developments, including mouthwashes and antiseptics, dreaming of becoming a support for humanity, a kind of happiness for the nation. Some of them cannot believe what has happened, expressing confusion and despair. One character blames himself for allowing this to happen, while another remembers Enid with awe. One holiday, A group of young adventurers explored ancient ruins that were rumored to be over 1,000 years old. Among the ruins, shrouded in the mysteries of the past, one of them suggested that they might be connected to a powerful magical civilization that existed long before the current era. While exploring the ruins, which were rumored to be thousands of years old, the heroes pondered the possibility of finding artifacts from the ancient era of the mages. One of them enthusiastically suggested that it would be wonderful to find something so significant. An older, more experienced member of the group noted that such finds could date back even further. One of the participants reflected on the scale of the achievements of the old world, mentioning incredible things like flights to the moon and the depths of the ocean, but admitted that it all sounded like fairy tales. They looked over the finds with interest, hoping for something unusual, but so far they had found nothing that could be considered an out-of-place artifact. An internal investigation was already underway, and the research seemed quite routine, especially for a limited budget. The girl enthusiastically embraced her older brother, expressing admiration for his dreaminess. One of the companions, clearly inspired, also supported his aspirations. They perceived everything that was happening with ease and joy. Meanwhile, Lord Arthur's second son, Conan du Grey Toll, was introduced, known as a dreamer and romantic, often immersed in his own dreams. One of the characters experienced a storm of emotions after a girl spoke positively about him. He flushed with shame and delight, perceiving it as something incredible. Impressed to the depths of his soul, he could not contain his glee, and immediately rushed to share the joy with his friend. The latter, in turn, reacted with slight embarrassment and a tired smile, clearly not sharing such an ardent reaction. The boy noted that the current study was an opportunity for Conan to get closer to Amelia. His comrades responded with delight, expressing admiration for his character, calling him wise, brave, and romantic. At the same time, another hero, observing what was happening, noted that one should be more careful in the wording with Conan due to his higher social status. During the study, one of the characters reflected on the meaning of human qualities, contrasting them with class differences. At the same time, another representative of a noble family confidently emphasized that his status distinguished him from the rest. Meanwhile, the third participant, who introduced himself as a slave, had to quickly obey the order, demonstrating obedience and modesty. One of the group members reacted sharply to the slowness of the girl with the third eye, reminding her of her origin and demanding greater agility. However, as soon as he spat on her, the spit was stopped by an invisible field. The others watched this with surprise, and one of them noted that the manner of treating her raised doubts about the upbringing of her master. One of the participants expressed dissatisfaction with the way the girl was treated, reminding that, despite her status, she remains a person. His unexpected seriousness confused the others, especially the one who had previously allowed himself to be rude. The culprit hastened to apologize and promised to behave more carefully, and the young man watching the scene was surprised by such a sharp change in behavior. Cain, shyly approaching Enid, expressed his sincere gratitude for the care he had shown him. Enid calmly confirmed that everything was fine and told him that the things could be given to him. Gallum, Edizbt. He suggested that Mia also give things to the golem. Enid noted to himself that the ruins, despite their gloomy atmosphere, did not pose much of a threat. Mia, having politely declined help, assured him that she could handle it herself. Within the group, everyone behaved differently, and their composition of 6 people and 1 golem seemed balanced. But despite the outward calm, one thing was still alarming. None of them had encountered a single monster yet, which was strange for such a place. The heroes continued to explore the ruins and were surprised to notice that there was not a single monster left in this place. Apparently, all the enemies had been destroyed during the previous explorations. Conan, realizing that he had lost the opportunity to prove himself to Amelia, was a little upset. Enid thought about the fact that there weren't even any guards left in the ruins, which meant the situation had become even more suspicious. The group finally encountered danger as monsters emerged from the darkness. Conan responded enthusiastically to their appearance, seeing this as a chance to prove himself. His companions were shocked and scrambled to assess the threat. Enid watched the monsters appear with a cool head, mentally calling them insignificant and comparing them to much more terrifying creatures from his experience. While one of his companions panicked, the boy understood that these enemies did not pose a serious threat. He was sure that if he released the golem, it would deal with them without difficulty, leaving no trace. When the fight began, Conan enthusiastically took the initiative, promising to handle the situation. He asked Enid to support him with magic, and he activated the magic blade without hesitation. At the same time, the girl from their squad decided to use magical protection to protect her allies. Amelia activated the Mega Armor spell, putting all her care into it. Conan, feeling her magical energy, was delighted, imagining that he was now enveloped in her love. He exclaimed that he had become invincible, sincerely inspired by this feeling. Encouraged by Amelia's encouragement, Conan charged into battle with a battle cry. With cries of determination, he unleashed a technique called Blade-Cutting Hurricane on his enemies. His attacks were swift and powerful, leaving a whirlwind of swords in his wake. During the battle, when Conan was completely absorbed in the attack, one of the monsters tried to strike him from behind. His comrades screamed, warning of danger. However, the boy with glasses, confident in the power of his spell, noticed that the protection worked. The magical barrier, the invisible wall, reflected the blow. He realized that the magic really protected Conan, as intended. While the monster was stunned, one of his comrades gave the signal to attack. Conan immediately took advantage of the moment and delivered the decisive blow. With the enemy defeated, he turned to the others with a slight smile, as if everything had gone according to plan. One of the onlookers realized with surprise that Suru had been hiding all this time, and another exclaimed in admiration, amazed by Conan's actions. After defeating the monsters, the girl with pigtails beamed with delight and expressed her admiration for her brother, believing that it was he who saved Conan. She was sure that from such a distance, even Conan would not have been able to dodge. At that moment, she seemed to have made an important decision for herself, looking at her brother with a loving look. Meanwhile, the group finally reached their destination, and Conan, looking ahead, announced their arrival. The heroes finally reached the king's throne. One of them, filled with emotion after many trials and deadly traps, noted with relief that the journey had been long. The other happily declared that since the goal had been achieved, it was time to return. However, the protagonist cautiously noted that the monsters could appear again. His gaze was drawn down to the wet spot on his comrade's pants, revealing his fear. After the tense events, Conan enthusiastically suggests starting the investigation from the beginning. His enthusiasm contrasts with Saruto's reaction, who, while agreeing out loud, is clearly not thrilled in his mind. Meanwhile, Conan settles into the royal throne, remarking on how comfortable it is, and looking as if he is quite happy with the position. The other members of the expedition joke about the situation, noting that he looks like a real king. Cain, slightly startled by the shout, turned to Saruto, who was irritably ordering him to thoroughly examine the floor. However, Enid intervened, stopping his partner and handing Cain a wooden stick with a glowing end, explaining that it would be easier to examine the surface without bending over. Cain took the object with confusion, and his ears, betraying his awkwardness, drooped slightly. Cain, beaming with joy, tightly clutched the instrument given to him by Enid, and with sincere gratitude uttered words of thanks. His genuine joy did not go unnoticed nearby. Amelia readily volunteered to help her brother, with enthusiasm in her voice. Enid, accepting her initiative, calmly distributed the tasks, entrusting her with the left side. At the same time, Amelia, realizing that Cain was also a guy, experienced an internal conflict, painfully realizing that there could be no romantic feelings between them. While the others were busy with their own affairs, Enid approached the throne with a serious expression. Reasoning like in a typical RPG, he assumed there was a secret passage behind it. Tapping his staff on the floor, he noticed a slight difference in the sound, imperceptible, but enough to make him wary. En continued to explore the space behind the throne, noticing a discrepancy in the sound of the floor, which led him to the idea of a possible secret staircase. The others were wary, since previous investigations had not yielded such a result. Conan motioned to move the throne to test the guess. Meanwhile, Amelia and Cain began to fuss. When the character with glasses was calmly looking around, a girl with wings suddenly appeared. She also decided to help him. At the moment when the narrative rolls back a little in time, two fairies simultaneously sensed someone's presence. one on the left, the other on the right. The two fairies exclaimed in unison, throwing their hands up to the sky and expressing violent indignation. Their synchronized movements and mirrored positions emphasized the intensity of their emotions. One of the fairies, with a smug smile, showed off an exact doll replica made from another character. The doll looked almost identical to the original. At this time, the second fairy, clearly upset, desperately tried to explain how her hand pressed the button without her will. Meanwhile, the real fairy looked at what was happening with a sullen expression, not hiding her displeasure. The fairies, identical in appearance, argued about where to go to look for the bespectacled man. Each insisted on her own direction, one pointing left, the other right. Then a scuffle began, the original attacking the copy, accusing it of disobedience. The fight degenerated into comic chaos, screaming, hair-pulling, accusations of unfair fighting. Meanwhile, one of them, apparently the original, smirked sarcastically, expressing her contempt. After a loud quarrel, both fairies froze, breathing heavily and glaring at each other. Neither wanted to give in. Their rage reached its peak, and at one point both simultaneously took extreme measures. The result was mutual liquidation. While the others were busy with their own affairs, the fairy double proudly declared that it was her route that turned out to be correct. While the boy listened attentively to the dull sound under the throne, the fairy watched him with surprise. It seemed he had really found something. She quickly decided to help and, filled with enthusiasm, turned on the golem. The next second, the throne suddenly began to move, causing fear in the others. The girl with the ears screamed sharply in surprise, and the bespectacled man himself froze, realizing that he had accidentally activated the mechanism. The boy looked at the inscription engraved on the stone slab with interest. His eyes lit up when he recognized the runes. Apparently, this was an ancient access system. Only the one who left the inscription could pass. He came to the conclusion that spirits could not activate the mechanism, and access was allowed only to a living being. A fairy nearby, hearing his thoughts, barely contained her indignation, because such a rule excluded her and all her relatives. The boys crowded around the boy with the glasses, listening attentively. He quietly confirmed the authenticity of the inscription, and said that there really was a secret staircase hidden in the dungeon. Hearing this, the knight enthusiastically exclaimed that behind this staircase were hidden the gates leading to the celestial city. His joy contrasted sharply with the amazement and confusion of the others. Enid reasoned that returning and reporting to the adults would be a wise move, especially after such a dubious find. He was clearly beginning to lose confidence, and amid his doubts, a mysterious voice inside him seemed to urge him to take action. The boy froze, clutching the hem of his robes, listening to the whispers he had heard before, every time he had been faced with a choice. Enid paused at the throne, listening to the inner call. The voice in her head was calm but insistent. It reminded her of what they had told her in the temple. The voice of the supreme deity, Manasthesia. Although she was not particularly religious, in that moment there was no doubt. The words about the true name came to mind, and obeying an unknown force, Enid knelt before the inscription and carefully began to write the symbols. Her true letters, her true I. Glasses completed the inscription, putting his true name into it, not just symbols, but a reflection of who he was and who he had become. The stone runes seemed to respond, glowing with a soft light. At that moment, the floor beneath him trembled, as if the world recognized his right to move on. He did not even immediately notice how the floor began to slide aside, opening a path down to a secret staircase that no one had ever found. The floor finally parted, revealing a stone staircase descending downwards. Everyone stared in amazement at the unexpected find. While Four Eyes was still trying to comprehend what was happening, Conan was already beaming with enthusiasm. He enthusiastically led the group, proclaiming that it was time to go underground. Someone rushed to admiringly proclaim him a hero, although Four Eyes himself looked confused, as if he wanted to say something, but before he could, Conan had already taken the first step down. When Conan suddenly disappeared from sight, the girl could not contain her emotions and anxiously rushed after him, determined to help at all costs. The rest of the group tried to stop her, understanding the risk, but she was already rushing down. To the side, the golem silently watched, remaining outside, unable to cross the barrier. After a tense fall, the entire group found themselves together in a new room. One of the participants who landed first turned around in relief when he saw the others. Conan admitted that he had gotten there by accident, having slipped on the tiles. Meanwhile, the protagonist noticed mysterious patterns beneath him. It was a transformation circle, clearly created for something magical. The heroes examine the new room, in which, at first glance, nothing special is happening. One of them assures that he has been here for some time, but everything is unchanged. The protagonist, meanwhile, again hears a mysterious voice and notices how mysterious symbols flash on the ceiling. The fairy next to him points out that the inscription appeared exactly when he entered the magic circle. Perhaps this is the key to the next stage. After the mysterious word, launch, is activated, glowing pillars suddenly begin to rise from the floor, surrounding the heroes. Everyone present freezes in amazement. The mechanism, hidden until this moment, suddenly begins to operate, and it seems that there is no way back for them. The platform with the boys suddenly activates, causing surprise and alarm among those present. The magic system announces the launch and imminent teleportation to the Celestial City, which is located directly above them. Despite the confusion, the boy with glasses tries to calm his sister, assuring her that everything is under control. At the most tense moment, the system announces a shocking condition. Someone present must die. Everyone panics. Fear and bewilderment are reflected on the friends' faces. One of them, unable to withstand the pressure, suddenly grabs his sword and rushes forward, trying to make a decision for everyone, but the situation gets out of control. The knight, full of determination, rushes forward with his sword, intending to resist the inevitable, but suddenly encounters the unexpected. The weapon cannot cut a path and his hand freezes. At this moment, one of the girls, holding back tears, activates a powerful spell. Energy flows envelop the artifact in her hands. She uses a group teleport spell, desperately trying to save everyone. The attempt to save everyone fails. The teleportation magic does not work. Enid panics and realizes that a forbidden seal has been placed on the place. At this moment, the system mercilessly informs. 30 seconds remain until death. The hero desperately tries to remove the seal with a spell, but it also turns out to be useless. The despairing boy cries out in tears that he does not want to die in such a place, begging for another way out. The protagonist, watching what is happening, realizes only he left the inscription, which means only he can act. Having made an internal decision, he asks to teleport everyone except himself, hoping that it will work. Clutching the staff in his hand, he prepares to perform the spell, knowing that such an action will have to pay a price. The girl, in despair, rushes to her brother, begging him to stop. She cannot lose him and does not want to save herself. With tears in her eyes, she says that if they are destined to die, then only together. The boy, overcome with internal struggle, hears her words and admits to himself how much he loves her, so much that even the thought of it hurts. The boy makes a decision despite his sister's pleas. He activates the group teleport, excluding himself from the spell. As the others disappear in the glow, he stands alone, sadly whispering goodbye. Amelia, realizing that he is left behind, calls out to him in horror, breaking into screams and sobs, desperately trying to run to him through the disappearing space. He realizes that the countdown is inexorably approaching the end, 10 seconds left. Fear is growing in his chest, despite his courage. His thoughts are confused. He does not want to die. He wants to scream, cry, call for help. But there is almost no time left. While the boy remained in the center of the circle, an image of his father appeared in his mind. He too had once stood before parting and had not cried, but had smiled. Now he understood what his father had felt at that moment. This thought evokes touching feelings, and the girl, with eyes full of tears, silently looks at her brother's farewell smile. The boy stands alone, holding back his emotions and smiling through his sadness. He thinks of his family and Amelia, choosing not to show them his pain so as not to hurt them even more. His words are a farewell, delivered with warmth and selflessness. Amelia reaches out to him in tears, but he has already made his choice, leaving her only a request to convey his goodbye to her parents. Amelia, overcome with despair, says that she cannot live without her brother and is ready to follow him into death. Her declaration of love is filled with tears and sincerity. The boy, despite his emotions, remains determined. He calmly turns to his sister, asking her to fulfill his last request, because it was for her sake that he made this decision. The young man, standing before his sister, calmly pronounces the single word, live. This request, simple in form, turns out to be unbearably difficult for Amelia. She breaks into tears, unable to contain her emotions. At this time, the knight, watching the scene, barely hides his own excitement. He promises that he will never forget the courage shown by his friend, and swears to take care of the girl. The young man quietly says goodbye with his eyes closed, having already resigned himself to his fate. The others, overcome with emotion and tears, watch as the last seconds pass. One of the friends is unable to contain his despair, the other only silently watches them go. The girl, standing to the side, tries to remember every detail, as if she is saying goodbye forever. The boy, surrounded by a flickering light, seemed to float in the air, lost in the shining void. His face remained calm, as if he had resigned himself to the inevitable. Looking ahead, he mentally asked for one thing, that he not be forgotten. Finding himself in the rays of unearthly light, he slowly rose, surrounded by blinding whiteness. His body was calm, and his soul was light. Thoughts, as if in a whisper, calmed him. He was no longer alone. Somewhere nearby, a familiar tiny figure flickered, ready to follow him. At the last moment, a smile lit up his face. He felt support and warmth, even on the border between worlds. The system activated, and the previously silent city began to shine in the sky. The launch was confirmed. A new inhabitant had arrived. According to the data, he was an ordinary inhabitant of the F-rank city. But now he was recognized as the new hope of all those living below. His magical potential was confirmed, and he was now the only inhabitant of the Alpha Sky City. Waking up, he looked around in surprise, not understanding where he was. A bright and quiet city, reminiscent of ancient buildings, spread out around him. His mind had not yet fully recovered from the teleportation, but the voice of the system confidently confirmed that he was the heir to this place. The boy noticed that his body had become translucent, and he himself began to rise into the air, despite the fact that he did not possess magic. He was overcome with excitement and confusion. Everything that was happening resembled the afterlife. He tried to comprehend whether this was really the celestial city that had been discussed earlier. The boy realized that despite his readiness to die, he couldn't just let it go. The faces of Amelia's loved ones and others he might never see again came into his mind. He tried to calm himself, reminding himself that nothing could be changed. But inside, he felt empty and the hope of rebirth pointless. Deciding not to give up completely, he decided to look around in the hope that there might be someone else in this place. The boy was surprised to see his hand pass through the wall, which made him wonder about the nature of his condition. Perhaps he was now in a spirit form. Looking around, he was amazed at the beauty of the surrounding city. The architecture seemed almost unreal to him, especially the tall buildings, which he could not imagine in the Malia he was used to. The boy looked around, but still did not notice any signs of life. He checked the rooms, the streets, and even in the air he did not feel the presence of other people. It seemed that the city was completely empty. He thought about the high tower and mentally calculated how difficult it would be to reach its top if he flew along the wall. Despite the silence, he felt that he was still in this place, and this awareness caused him anxiety. The young man, finding himself in an empty, lifeless city, began to lose track of time. With each passing minute, he became increasingly overcome with a feeling of loneliness and helplessness. It seemed to him that he was the only living being in this place, and the thought that this would be forever caused anxiety. His heart pounded dully in his chest, filled with a longing for any contact. He sincerely wished to meet at least someone, at least one person. While the young man was wandering alone, he suddenly heard a familiar voice, although there was still no one around to be seen. This was unexpected and encouraging. The fairy appeared and happily reported that she had found him, relying on her intuition. She quickly explained that his body was under a high tower in the center of the city, and directed him there. Hearing this, the young man was amazed. The fairy explained that she couldn't activate the necessary mechanism since she wasn't the owner of this place. However, she was sure that he could do it. According to her, the lower floor of the tower, where his body lay, was full of dolls, and that was where the start button was. All he had to do was follow the instructions, even if he didn't fully understand what they were talking about. Once on the lower floor of the tower, he saw a room that resembled a futuristic laboratory. The decor seemed to be ripped from science fiction. There were capsules there, and his body was resting in one of them. Despite his habit of passing through walls and floors, he noticed that he could not cross the doors of this room. The decor evoked unexpected associations. At first he thought of a medieval morgue, but eventually compared everything to a giant refrigerator. The boy found his body in one of the capsules. It was lying motionless, as if in a dream. At first, he assumed that it was some kind of cryogenic sleep. A small creature nearby pointed to a holographic panel in front of him, an instruction written in an incomprehensible language. It explained that, as the king of ghosts, he could return to his physical body. It resembled an ancient technique of spirit transformation referred to as, quote, resurrection. The boy realized that all that was left was to try and reach out his hand to the panel. Touching his physical body, the boy felt something inside him shift. His face reflected sudden realization, and then a stream of energy engulfed everything around him. The next moment, his eyes opened and he regained consciousness, regaining his body. The boy woke up in his body, surprised that it was no longer transparent. He was alive again. The fairy happily reported that his soul had returned to his physical shell. He thanked her, feeling relief and a quiet gratitude to the unknown voice that had guided him all this time. The fairy girl proudly declared that he now had a super body, and her divine power may have increased. The young man squinted from the blinding light, unable to see the face in front of him. The next moment, a majestic figure appeared before him. The fairy introduced herself as a goddess named Syl. He was shocked by her appearance and sudden change of form. However, Syl admitted that such a form was taking too much of her strength, and, quickly losing energy, she returned to her previous form, announcing that she was switching off. When the glow dissipated, the young man was left alone with his thoughts, doubting whether he had really seen the goddess or if it had all seemed so. However, the voice still ringing in his head confirmed. He had been shown the final form. The goddess admitted that she rarely manifested herself in this form, and from now on she would only give advice with her voice. Before he had time to come to his senses, a command was given to immediately go down to the second floor and activate the dolls. The young man, still naked and confused, tried to object, but was literally pushed out by the cheerful call of his companion. The young man, barely covering himself with a cloth, followed his guide to the second underground floor. He noted with relief that at least he was not completely naked. However, as soon as he entered the room, he froze in amazement. In front of him in capsules stood girls as if sleeping, immersed in water, surrounded by bubbles. The scene stunned him, and he could not hold back his surprised look. Approaching the indicated door, the young man entered and froze in amazement. A long hall opened up before his eyes, on both sides of which dozens of girls were in transparent capsules. All of them were in a state of rest, as if they were sleeping, immersed in liquid. With each passing second, growing bewilderment seized the young man. He could not understand what kind of place this was and why these people were gathered here. The young man looked at the endless row of capsules containing the girls in amazement. He was amazed by their number and could not believe that these were actually dolls. Each of them looked as if they were just sleeping, with living features and a body like a real person. Although their faces were almost identical, differences such as hair color, birthmarks, and height gave them individuality. The young man was embarrassed when the fairy suddenly asked him if he liked one of the girls in the capsule. His gaze involuntarily lingered on her figure, which only increased his confusion. Trying to justify himself, he muttered that it was all a simple coincidence. Meanwhile, the fairy, ignoring his embarrassment, cheerfully urged him to look at the wall on the right and activate the chosen doll as soon as possible. The boy was surprised to learn that in front of him were the dolls of the war gods creatures that were used not only as fighters on the battlefield, but also as defenders and even maids. He could hardly believe what he had heard. While he was trying to comprehend what he had heard and wondering where Syl had disappeared to, The fairy cheerfully explained that all he had to do was press a button to activate the doll of his choice. The young man froze in confusion when he discovered where exactly the button to activate the combat doll was. According to the instructions, it was located in an extremely delicate place. Fairy Syl, herself stunned by this strange design, urging him to quickly activate the doll. He approached in confusion, wondering if he really was in a manga, since in reality, such a thing could only happen there. The young man, overcoming his shyness, approached the capsule with doll number 77. He hesitantly raised his hand and, following the instructions, activated the mechanism. The water inside the capsule began to move, and the girl, who had been motionless until then, slowly began to move. Her eyes were still closed, but her body was already rising, ready to awaken. The boy held her carefully in his arms, amazed at how much she resembled a real person. Her skin was warm and soft, indistinguishable from a human, but her weight was almost weightless, as if he were carrying a feather. He could not tear his eyes away from her face. The doll was so beautiful, as if created with perfection in every stroke. The boy froze, looking at the silky-skinned doll with confusion. His heart was pounding, but he knew it was just an artificial body. Its heart wasn't beating. Despite his slight confusion, he gathered his courage. The fairy's voice urged him, reminding him that he had to press the switch, not just touch it. Confused but determined, he stepped forward, remembering what to do. Following the instructions, he tried to put it into action, facing awkward moments due to the need for physical contact. Despite internal doubts and embarrassment, he tries to follow the instructions, realizing that this is part of his new reality. The fairy enthusiastically examines the instructions, finds the instruction to activate the doll, and unashamedly declares that the desired area is located between the legs. The young man is confused by such a straightforward statement, embarrassed by her words and his own thoughts. But the fairy insists on action. Despite his internal hesitation, he tries to follow her instructions, because activating the doll remains a key step in his mission. The young man, gathering his courage, follows the fairy's instructions to activate the doll in the capsule. Despite his embarrassment, he overcomes his hesitation, as activation requires physical contact with a special launch zone. Under pressure from the circumstances and the fairy's insistence, he touches the right spot. The doll's eyes slowly open, the signs of awakening becoming apparent. Her body trembles slightly, as if life is awakening within. The young man, still leaning over her, freezes in surprise and excitement, watching this moment with amazement and admiration. The doll slowly lifts her head, her lips spreading into a gentle smile. Her eyes, full of light, freeze for a moment on the young man's face, as if imprinting his image. Words filled with softness and gratitude fall from her lips. She is happy to have been awakened, and with sincere warmth, she calls him her master. Syl woke up in complete darkness, feeling only steam and not understanding what was happening. At this time, the system of the heavenly city was launched, determining the new owner of the inheritance. Unexpectedly, it turned out that it was the bespectacled man who had the rights. Surprised, Syl realized that it all started with him. Syl woke up in complete darkness, feeling only steam and not understanding what was happening. At this time, the system of the heavenly city was launched, determining the new owner of the inheritance. Unexpectedly, it turned out that it was the bespectacled man who had the rights. Surprised, Syl realized that it all started with him. During the system startup, something strange suddenly happened. One of the capsules began to glow and cause an alarm. The system detected the presence of a foreign body, mistakenly recognizing it as a doll. The destruction process immediately began, which caused panic in Syl, who did not have time to understand what exactly went wrong. Syl woke up suddenly, surprised to find herself alive again. It turned out that the battle dolls had their own personality, and were able to dream when they disappeared. This was an unexpected discovery for her, and seemed quite strange. The fairy encountered a mysterious figure hidden by glasses and a shadow. At first, she did not understand who was in front of her, but it turned out to be a deity, capable of changing appearance depending on the perception of the interlocutor. Excited, the fairy came to the conclusion that she was standing in front of a real god, and enthusiastically decided to call him Super God. She realized that she was not in reality, but in a dream in an intermediate world between heaven and material reality. Known as the Celestial City, she was surprised that, being a doll, she could dream. However, she was told that mere dolls lack personality, while she does. That is why she is able to do this, although she will never be able to return to the physical world. The fairy panicked when she learned that her body had disappeared after entering this world. She was assured that her physical shell had been destroyed, but that this was a normal process before death, the consciousness falling into a dream. The mysterious being explained that it could be brought back by fusing the soul with a new shell using divine power when the Lord of Heaven awakened. Syl was delighted to learn that a special body with unusual abilities awaited her. The mysterious god assured her that he meant no harm and suggested that she accept these changes. Inspired, Syl decided to continue following Glasses, even as a stalker. In the present, Syl wakes up in a new body and happily calls Glasses his master. He is confused by what is happening, and the fairy cheerfully teases him, noting that he has completed the task and now he will have to do it more than once. Glasses felt awkward after activating the doll and apologized, embarrassed. The fairy watched from the side, noting that she had known Glasses much longer and was confident in her choice. She assigned the doll the serial number 77, calling it 7. Inwardly, she realized that the doll did not seem to perceive her words. Meanwhile, the doll itself turned to Glasses with a request. She wanted him to give her a name. Hesitantly, he began to call her Nana. Glasses, hesitating a little, suggested the name Nanashi for the doll. She accepted it with trepidation, pronouncing the new name out loud and as if memorizing it. She thanked him for such a beautiful name and looked at him tenderly, calling him Master. The fairy, watching their interaction, was surprised to notice that the doll seemed to have fallen in love with Glasses and called him to action. Glasses wondered in disbelief if it was really a doll standing in front of him. Nanashi calmly confirmed it, explaining that she was a combat golem from the Alpha series. Despite her artificial origin, she looked almost like a real girl, and that was what was confusing. However, she expressed with tender devotion that serving her master brought her joy, because she belonged only to him. Nanashi asked with timid curiosity why she had been chosen among the others. The bespectacled man was at first embarrassed and could not formulate an answer right away, which made the girl a little sad. However, having collected his thoughts a little, he admitted that he had simply followed the call of his heart. The fairy who intervened was outraged by his indecisiveness because, in her opinion, this was an important moment for romance. He, embarrassed, asked Nanashi to help find a way to return to Earth. The girl, delighted by his attention and her own feelings, excitedly began to fulfill the request, starting a search for data in her internal database. Meanwhile, the fairy happily noted that her advice was useful. Nanashi, slightly upset, apologized to Glasses for her uselessness, explaining that she didn't have the information she needed in her database. The boy gently replied that there was no need to apologize. The girl then thought about it and suggested that her mother might know more. Meanwhile, the fairy, noticing the confusion, intervened animatedly, explaining that Nanashi was an artificial magical intelligence, and therefore had extensive knowledge of the heavenly city. Meanwhile, the fairy reminded him that it was she who had first brought him to that very dangerous mother. The Four Eyes boy nervously admitted that he did not want to go there again because last time he was almost killed. The fairy, hearing this, exclaimed that it was the mother who had made a hole in her then. Before heading to Mother, he decided to find some clothes first. He knew there were probably shops on this floor. The bespectacled boy chose his clothes, surprised that there was no doll in the store except Nanasha. She confirmed this after searching. He tried on his usual outfit, deciding to complete the look with Glasses, and asked if he could take the things. Nanashi showed off her new lingerie set, waiting for her opinion. The bespectacled boy, embarrassed, muttered that it suited her. The fairy added with delight that the lingerie looked very sexy. Nanashi, trying on the underwear, doubted its size and asked the owner's opinion. He was clearly stunned by the sight and embarrassed, but hastened to assure that everything was fine. Meanwhile, the fairy worriedly reminded that the doll was not yet fully awakened, and Four Eyes himself admitted that he could barely contain himself. She tried on different outfits and was happy to note how many interesting clothes there were in the store. She asked the owner which look he liked the most. In the end, he chose the maid's costume, noting that she looked especially cute in it. The girl thanked her master for choosing her. While she was happily trying on clothes, the fairy noticed how the protagonist was enjoying the sight. He then asked for help finding glasses, and Nanashi pointed out that they could be found on the 7th floor, where there was a whole department with clothes and accessories. He admired the display case full of magical accessories. Among them, he chose a pair of glasses that particularly caught his eye and asked Nanashi for her opinion. She approved of his choice, noting that they suited him very well. When he tried them on, he was surprised by the quality. Even such small things as glasses turned out to be much better in the celestial city than those he wore on Earth. Enid noted with admiration that the glasses suited Nanashi very well, and she looked spectacular in them. While they exchanged sweet glances, the fairy reminded them that they still had a goal to get to the top floor. She was a little irritated by how the couple got carried away trying on the glasses, forgetting about business. He anxiously asked if Nanashi could take them to their mother. She happily agreed, and as soon as they started walking, the fairy expressed impatience, wanting to get there as soon as possible. Hearing that his mother was on the 999th floor, Glasses was shocked. However, thanks to teleportation, they arrived instantly, which once again confirmed that the technology of the Heavenly City is truly impressive. Glasses and Nanashi approached the huge passage leading to the control room, where, according to Nanashi, Mother should be. The width of the corridor impressed everyone. Even the fairy noticed that even a giant could pass through it. Glasses began to have doubts. He wondered out loud whether Mother had already been destroyed, and whether they were heading there in vain. Nanashi calmly assured that she would give an answer when the time came. The bespectacled man, following the instructions, tried to open the massive door, relying on his status as a city resident. He touched the panel, repeating the command out loud. Everyone waited with bated breath for the result, but the system reacted unexpectedly. Access was denied due to his F rank. Surprise gripped everyone. Even Glasses himself had no idea of his rank, and the fairy exclaimed in confusion. When the standard method of opening the door didn't work, the fairy didn't hesitate to use force. With a scream, she unleashed a powerful blast of magic that literally blew the barrier away with an explosion. Glasses, Boy, and Nanashi, dumbfounded by the destruction, watched as the fairy joyfully floated, urging them to move on. She also reported that her glasses showed the amount of damage done, more than 500,000, which impressed everyone. After destroying the door, the fairy suddenly realized that she had accidentally used too much magic, taking energy from a special reserve. This surprised even herself, because even combat dolls made of durable material could not damage that door. She decided that if the mother turned out to be an enemy, she would not hold back and use all possible combos and spells on her. However, now she needed to rest a little to regain her strength, and the bespectacled man, meanwhile, watched her outbursts with a worried face. After a powerful blow, the fairy, having spent too much energy, announced that she was going into hibernation. As a farewell, she encouraged her companion and wished him to take care of himself. Her voice disappeared into thin air, and the boy was surprised to realize her disappearance. Despite the door opening, he and Nanashi understood that by entering, they would be breaking the ban, but they had no choice. The only way was forward. Just before entering the mysterious room, a voice suddenly rang out in front of the protagonist, recognizing him as a true resident of the city. Surprise was reflected in his gaze when the system allowed him to pass. After confirming the level and registering, the system allowed the protagonist to proceed further as a normal city dweller. He was surprised that this was possible, since it seemed that his own mana had opened the access. Hearing the call, the protagonist realized that it was his mother's voice. Nanashi confirmed that it was she who was calling him. He hesitated a little, took off his glasses, mentally preparing himself, and took a step forward. All that was left was to enter. Immediately after this, a shining statue of the goddess appeared in the hall. The bespectacled man was shocked to recognize something familiar in her appearance. He felt that he had seen something similar somewhere before. The boy immediately recognized the image in it, similar to the one he had once seen in the royal port. Back then, it was an ordinary stone statue, but now everything looked different. He doubted whether it could be just a coincidence. However, the voice that sounded in their heads confirmed that in front of them was indeed the mother of this place. The statue invited them to come closer. Glasses and Nanashi appeared before the woman known as Mother, the ruler of this city. She explained that the gates were not supposed to let in a commoner like him, as only those with at least an A rank were allowed to enter. However, Glass's case was an exception. He apologized for damaging the gates, but Mother assured him that there was no need to worry about it. The bespectacled man realized with surprise that he was now the heir. He was informed that he had the right to dispose of the inheritance at his own discretion, which caused him shock and bewilderment. The young man was amazed to learn that everything around him now belonged to him. While he was trying to comprehend what was happening, Mother explained that they were in the Celestial City, hidden in another dimension where only deities live. The boy was amazed to learn that the city existed in another dimension. He was told that over the course of thousands of years, ancient cities were built here and civilizations developed, where magicians and scientists created unique technologies. He admitted that he had never seen anything like it before. The character recalled how he had encountered magical items before, but realized that the artifacts of ancient times were much more powerful. He examined the ring with the sphere of the spiritual divine seal, an item of high magical level, superior to similar ones from his world. It became clear to him that the ancients possessed power and knowledge inaccessible to modern people, which is why so many sought to find these forgotten relics. The characters learned that all the ancient inhabitants of this city had disappeared without a trace, leaving no descendants. The reason for their death remained unknown. One of the heroes suggested that perhaps they had provoked the wrath of a being higher than the gods themselves, and that was why he had not met anyone in this place. According to ancient rules, the first person to enter the city was recognized as the heir, and automatically received everything that belonged to its previous inhabitants. In this case, it was the main character who turned out to be that very first resident. The protagonist was told that he now had the right to control everything in this world, including dungeons and ancient technologies. He was recognized as the rightful owner, and now everything he touched was considered his. This stunned him, as if he found himself inside a dream. Shocked by the scale of what was happening, the hero suddenly realized that despite the rights and heritage he had received, his true desire was to return to Earth. He hopefully asked if such a way existed, and heard an affirmative answer. The protagonist learned that there was a way to return to Earth, but to activate the teleportation gate, a colossal amount of energy of at least 900 units was required. Although he currently only had 850, he was confident that he would reach the required level within a year, and perceived this as a completely achievable goal. It turned out that to activate the teleportation gates, you need not just 900 units of mana, but 900,000, since the calculation is based on the ratio of 1 kilometer to 1,000 mana. This stunned the heroes, because they have a huge way to go to reach the required level. The protagonist, realizing the complexity of the task, needs to accumulate 900,000 units of mana to activate the portal, loses his composure, and faints from shock. His companion runs up to him in a panic, and he, in a semi-conscious state, apologizes to her, unable to believe what is happening. The young man, realizing the scale of the task, comes to the conclusion that even in 10 years he will not be able to accumulate the necessary strength to leave the Celestial City. His face expresses despair and inner capitulation. At this time in the temple, a young girl desperately turns to the deity Manastesia, begging for help. With tears in her eyes, she asks to save her older brother, sincerely believing that her prayer will be able to reach higher powers. It has been 3 years since Enid went missing. His loved ones, especially his sister, continue to pray for his return, never losing hope. They believe that their daily prayers will be answered, and they console themselves with the thought that he is okay, despite the unknown. Sister Anda does not lose hope and continues to pray for his return. She sincerely believes that one day she will see her brother again and is ready to give everything for this. The most important thing for her is reunification with her family, and in this hope she turns to God asking for a miracle. As the family prayed for the safety of their lost son, Enid was having fun with the girls. Having immersed himself in a new life, he began to feel calmer than ever. Surrounded by care, delicious food, and kind words, Enid enjoyed an almost fairy tale peace. as if he had ended up in paradise. The young man suddenly realized that he had forgotten about the most important thing, the family waiting for him on his home planet. While he was trying to focus on his goal, one of the girls, addressing him tenderly, reminded him of the new reality. She asked him to call her Nana, and he sheepishly agreed. When the young man was already determined to return to Earth, one of the girls tenderly approached him with a romantic proposal, confusing him. Despite his inner doubts and awareness of the importance of his goal, he mechanically agreed, lost between duty and temptation. After 3 years in the floating city, the young man who had once accidentally found himself there became not only a part of it, but also a revival of it. Having achieved an unprecedented level of magical power, he was surrounded by grateful and admiring girls who happily called him master. His journey, which began with a desire to return home, led to him becoming the pillar of a new world. On the day he was honored, the hero found himself in the center of special attention. A caring girl, who had diligently prepared the dish, proudly presented the treat. He was surrounded by warm care, tenderness, and a festive atmosphere, enjoying the moment as if in a fairy tale. The main character finds himself surrounded by caring assistants, who not only delight him with culinary masterpieces, but also use magical technologies to ensure that the food always remains fresh. The new face in the team modestly offers another delicacy. The hero, having received praise for his achievements, modestly turns his attention to his assistants, especially to those who supported him all this time. The general mood is light and warm, compliments and gratitude sound, and one of the girls, overwhelmed with emotion, rushes to embrace her beloved master. One of the girls, designated Battle Doll number 82 Honey, suddenly jumps on the protagonist, showing excessive emotional attachment. The other characters watch with surprise and slight concern. One of the heroines, named Mimi, Combat Doll number 33, receives praise and recognition. The girl with glasses officially announces that it is Mimi who deserves the reward from the master today. Mimi shyly presses her hand to her chest, trying to remain serious, although her cheeks are slightly red. Then Enid gently places her hand on her head, showing support and care. In the luxurious chambers of the tower of the floating city, the hero shares his thoughts about his routine. He says that the girls he lives with do not feed on food, but on his love. Every night he spends time with one of them, calling it necessary for their existence. The cat-eared heroine expresses her gratitude to her master with a warm smile, saying that he has given her many things and confesses his love. The goddess confirms that what is happening was made possible by Nana's request and her participation after talking to her mother. The protagonist reveals that he activated 100 sleeping battle dolls that resembled humans, including Nana. They were all stored in capsules in the basement, each with a backup activation button hidden in an intimate part of the body. He mentions that there are another 1,000 such doll servants waiting for their turn, located elsewhere, and now they are all his new faithful assistants. Enid shares that half of the girls around him wear glasses, which is his personal preference. They all try to stand out, competing with each other from morning to evening, but at the same time they are always there, surrounding him with attention and care. The young man is surrounded by the attention and care of the maids, who are genuinely happy to be near him. One of them explains that caring for him makes them happy and gives meaning to their existence. Despite his inner doubts, he cannot resist their devotion and affection. The protagonist, in meditation, reflects on the magical gates in the human body, energy points through which magical power passes. He has taken a special potion and is preparing for the next stage of development, including the use of a divine spell. These gates resemble chakras from modern manga and play an important role in the accumulation and management of magical energy. Enid ponders the possibilities of opening the magical gates with his imagination, which will greatly increase his magical power. He thanks her for her help, although he himself believes that he has already achieved his main goal. The maid, inspired by his efforts, praises him for his diligence. Nana thanks the hero for the opportunity to use the device that allows the release of true magic, and notes that he managed to open his magic gate. The girl respectfully says that throughout history, people have only been able to open 4 magic points, and even that was considered the limit. The girl admires the fact that the protagonist opened 6 of the 7 magic gates, suggesting that he is the chosen one, the protagonist himself remaining modest expresses gratitude to her and others for their help and support, especially for activating the magic release device. He admits that without their participation, he would not have been able to achieve such results. The heroine is sincerely glad that she was able to be useful. At this moment, other girls run into the room with excited cries. One of them calls the hero dear in a homely way. The surprised girl with a serious look suggests that everyone go to the game room, offering the master a little fun after completing the training. The girl with glasses enthusiastically acts first, awakening the power and attacking the enemy. Another participant, a young man, masters the control of the golem, gradually understanding what is happening. Support, approval, and joy for success are heard around. The atmosphere is filled with excitement and inspiration. A group of girls watch the training arena with interest, discussing how they would like to take part in controlling the golems themselves. The hero, already prepared for battle, gives permission to attack simultaneously. Immediately after this, a coordinated attack begins. Several participants with full determination direct their forces at the training target. During a tense battle between the golems, one of the girls notices with alarm that the enemy has lifted the hero. The next moment, the clay figure of the hero falls to the ground, crumbling. Result. It is obvious that victory remains with Enid. His rivals, with slight sadness, admit another defeat, watching as he confidently stands in the center of the field. After a tense match, the hero admits with relief that he's sweating a lot. His battle golem, created from a mixture of orichalcum and mithril, arouses admiration from those around him. The girls note his confidence in operating the mechanism. The atmosphere lightens, and someone suggests going for a refreshing drink. The main character is relaxing in a bathhouse surrounded by girls who carefully look after him. A moment in the bathhouse where one of the girls tenderly and caringly insists on personally helping the protagonist with his ablutions, despite his attempts to refuse. He is surrounded by girls who want to show their care by participating in the ablution process. Their actions are emphasized by expressions of tenderness and devotion, creating an atmosphere of intimate attention and gratitude. After the night falls, the protagonist is invited to rest and relax. Several girls, demonstrating care and affection, turn to him with smiles, offering to continue the evening in his company. The character wakes up surrounded by two girls after an obviously intense and emotional evening. His internal monologue conveys mixed feelings. On the one hand, he enjoys the warmth and attention. On the other, he realizes how far he has come from his past life and reflects on his current situation. He realizes that he has the opportunity to return home due to the level of magical power he has achieved. However, he experiences an internal conflict. The desire to return to his old life clashes with his attachment to those who supported him in the new world. Next to him is a girl who is worried about his words. The girl expresses her devotion to the hero, saying that she is ready to follow him anywhere. He looks at her with a slight smile and gratitude, realizing that he will not be left alone, no matter what decision he makes. The protagonist reflects on the girl's words, realizing that she and the others are not going to leave him alone. He feels grateful and tells Nana that she has given him significant help. He shares with Nana his sense of relief and his desire to rest a little. The girl with a warm smile says that she will always be by his side. They lie next to each other, enjoying the quiet moment. The hero thinks about what he will tell his mother tomorrow about everything that happened. Enid is in a recovery capsule filled with a magical elixir. The device is designed to quickly replenish magical energy. In 1 hour, inside the capsule, you can fully recover. The maids watch the process, noting that the magic has already been replenished, and ask if everything is coming to an end. The maids discuss how the hero successfully recovered from severe magical exhaustion by using a recovery capsule. One of the girls mentions that she has heard of a so-called magical illness that can occur after overexertion. The others note with admiration that the hero has achieved an impressive magical power of 1 meter m and thank him for his efforts. One of the girls expresses her affection for him with enthusiasm and admiration, causing jealousy in the other. The hero talks about his magical training, comparing it to what he did back on Earth. He explains that regular exercise and magic restoration are important for the growth of the magical reserve. He mentions that he used to farm and help people, and also remembers hunting birds for food. The girls ask him questions with interest, trying to find out more about him. One such memory is growing cotton. The conversation quickly turns to the current situation. The heroes mention that they received a letter from the governor asking them to start growing cotton, which connects the protagonist's past experience with the current tasks in the new world. One character recalls a patch of undeveloped land south of the village where it is warmer. Others specify that the southern part of the continent is hot and humid, a climate suitable for cotton farming despite the low rainfall. The character notes that demand for cotton will grow, especially with government support. However, the protagonist expresses doubt, citing high rates and a shortage of not only land but also labor. At the bottom of the page, there is information about cotton plantations as an important agricultural industry, especially in tropical and subtropical regions. Characters discuss the use of slaves as labor to grow cotton. One character cites historical examples from Earth, while another points to contemporary practices on their world. Kane expresses doubt, while one character insists on the benefits of cheap labor for business. Enid ponders the morality of slavery and comes to the conclusion that sustainable development is impossible if slaves are used as an economic resource. In the end, he suddenly has an idea and enthusiastically tells his father about it. He suggests not using slave labor, but growing cotton themselves, thereby simultaneously developing the economy and relieving slaves of suffering. He is supported, and a decision is made to start with their own efforts. Now they are going to study the process of growing cotton in more detail. Suddenly, a powerful figure awakens, having completed a long charge that lasted 30,000 hours. One of the characters recognizes the voice, which causes him an anxious premonition. The girl next to him calmly agrees to a fight, as if anticipating a fight. In the return of the powerful character of the goddess who disappeared 3 years ago, she destroys the door with a powerful blow, with damage of 530,000 units. For comparison, damage of one dragon is only 100. Main hero, shocked by her appearance. Enid encounters an unexpected character, a pixie, whom he, it turns out, has already seen in childhood with the help of magic glasses. He is confused. Why, instead of a majestic goddess, is there a small fairy-like creature with an absurd comb on her head in front of him? Gradually, he comes to the realization that this is the very goddess in whom he believed all this time. The protagonist can't believe that the goddess he believed in looks like a small pixie with wings. He is shocked and doubts her divinity, thinking that she is just a low-level spirit. Meanwhile, the pixie claims that he has to recognize her and is angry at him for doubting her. The Guardian's summoning system suddenly activates in the hall, and a dangerous gargoyle named Pazuzuria, made of orichalcum, appears. This creature is classified as a rank A threat, and is capable of single-handedly destroying 100 dragon lords. Those present are shocked by the power of the awakened Guardian. The fairy, in the form of a pixie, appears and easily destroys the powerful gargoyle, blowing it to pieces. She calls her act fireworks, and promises to show real power to scare everyone present. The heroes are shocked by her destructive abilities, despite her carefree appearance. Pixie, in the form of a giant magical girl, strikes with devastating force, causing the system to register the threat level as S rank. She herself announces the end of the battle, but at the same time cryptically hints that she has 2 more transformations in reserve. Pixie decides to show off another transformation, promising to amaze everyone with her power. However, the new form turns out to be so ugly and disgusting that the heroes cannot contain their reactions. The system registers the threat level as SSS rank, and the form is described as unimaginable, nauseating, cursed form. In the second transformation, the pixie takes on such an ugly and frightening appearance that the heroes begin to lose their minds. However, an unexpectedly beautiful figure in superform mode appears before them, causing the hero to decide that perhaps everything that happened was a figment of his imagination. She, who had previously shown frightening and absurd appearances, now appears before the hero in her true, shining, and charming form. She assures him that she is not hiding anything from him, and proudly calls herself very cute and super beautiful. The hero is stunned by her sudden change. The fairy appears in another impressive form as a, quote, perfect machine in God mode. Her appearance literally shines, blinding those around her. The protagonist squints at the brightness, while she solemnly declares her power. Pixie reveals that the city is actually a giant war machine controlled by an AI named Mama. Its threat level is so high that it cannot be assessed. The final defense function begins to activate, and the heroes try to comprehend the scale of what is happening. The characters are faced with a moral dilemma. Pixie wants to destroy the city's ruling doll, Mama, in order to win, but the protagonist remembers how he lived in this city for 3 years, and how Mama took care of him. He hesitates, because destroying Mama will lead to the death of the entire city. The protagonist convinces the goddess not to destroy the city or kill Mama, offering to erase her memory instead. He says he does not blame the goddess and is sure Mama will be able to understand. Pixie agrees, saying that this case is special, and expresses regret for what happened to his eyes. She uses a powerful attack using half of her accumulated magic power, but the effect is insignificant. The damage is comparable to throwing a pebble. This hurts her greatly, and she angrily declares that she will never forgive the enemy. An angry girl in the heat of conflict decides to make a counterattack. Her energy is concentrated in a blow that falls with full force on her opponent. After a powerful blow, the opponent's figure literally crumbles, leaving only her head resting among the rubble. The winner sums it up with a smile, demonstrating confidence and control over the situation, but does not exclude the possibility of restoring the defeated one. Despite the apparent victory, the city's system suddenly activates an emergency mode. The magical doll linked to the city initiates a forced energy harvesting due to the threat to survival, hinting at an even more dangerous development. After activating the emergency mode, the magic doll begins to suck all the magic out of Nana, leaving her powerless. This results in the appearance of a huge black ball of ancient super space-time magic, threatening unknown consequences. Due to the activation of the emergency system, all the dolls in the city are switched off, and the accumulated magic is concentrated into a huge ball. However, the heroine remains calm. Thanks to her omniscient skill and the ability Perfect Magic Reflection, she is confident that she can repel any attack. The heroine confidently tried to repel the attack of the huge black ball, but realized that she had made a fatal mistake. It was a spell that could not be reflected or defended against. The goddess realized her mistake. She overestimated her own strength and did not use the magic reflection on the black ball. Despite this, she smiled and promised to return before disappearing into the attack. Enid watches as the goddess disappears inside a black ball, leaving behind a phrase that she will return. He is amazed and remembers how the first time he entered the Sky City, a similar situation occurred, also with a mysterious ball and a sudden disappearance. Enid ponders the true nature of the goddess. He is still not sure if she is a pixie or a hideous monster, but despite everything, he believes that she will definitely return, like last time. He admits that he considers her a goddess, because she is the one who comes to the rescue again and again. Now his attention turns to Nana, who has weakened due to the loss of her magical power, and he decides that she must be taken care of first. He uses an ancient magical technique. He transfers his magical power to her through a kiss. According to the explanation, contact of mucous membranes is almost 100% more effective than normal touch in transferring magic. Young man. Seeing that Nana has woken up, he smiles with relief. She admits that she used up all her magic to stop the invasion. Meanwhile, the city system itself, addressing him directly, tries to explain she had no choice. Enid listens anxiously to the system's explanation. All the mechanisms of the Sky City are disabled, and they will not be able to be restarted. They have only 3 hours left before the city's final shutdown. The system has been put into hibernation mode to extend this time, but once it exits, it will be irretrievably lost. Enid will have to leave the city forever. Enid feels a little sad as she says goodbye to the city, but it turns out that parting is not necessary. The mother of the city declares that she is not going to leave him alone. At the same time, the core is successfully separated, and the giant demon mode is turned off, completing the system's functioning cycle. Even after all the systems of the Sky City are turned off, the mother of the city tells Enid that she is not going to say goodbye to him. Moreover, she intends to follow him even to Earth, emphasizing that refusals are not accepted. After unexpectedly announcing that she will follow Enid to Earth, the girl explains to her shocked companions that her real body is not the giant statue, but something else. In fact, she used what is called a, quote, giant demonic cloak, a vessel that serves as magical armor rather than a physical body. It turned out that the mother's main form was contained within a core hidden in the armor. She divided this core into two parts. One would remain in the Eternal City, and the other would go with Enid. At the same time, she chose the form of a child to reduce the consumption of magic. The mother, who has taken the form of a girl, calls Enid her son with a smile, emphasizing her affection. Nana, catching his reaction to her outfit, curiously notes that he apparently likes such images. Mother, now wearing an outfit sewn with the help of creation magic, proudly shows off the new thing to Enid. He praises it reservedly, and Nana admiringly notices the cute pocket. It turns out that this is not just a piece of clothing, but a real artifact, a quote, pocket of another dimension, connected to the treasury of the celestial city. Enid stops everyone before they leave, admitting that he would like to return to Earth not alone, but with all the dolls. He explains excitedly, he made a promise and cannot abandon them. Enid is worried, but the heroine, with a serious look, says that they have no time to discuss. She suggests that they first reach the gate of a device called the Gate of Time and Space, which is also called the Gate to Anywhere. This page explains that 900,000 ohm of magical energy is required to activate the gate. Enid currently has 1 million ohm, which is enough to open the gate and reach his destination. However, it is not enough to take all the dolls with him. The girl with the ears apologizes and says that Enid definitely does not have enough magic to awaken the dolls and transport them. He activates the magical rebirth gate to restore his magic power. He says that he can now share it with the others. He even plans to repeat the activation as many times as necessary. However, the girl explains that even with the restored magic, it is still not enough to awaken all the dolls. The boy silently listened to the warning that every time he used this technique, his life would be shortened. Tried to stop him, insisting that this couldn't be done because we were only talking about things. Enid firmly confirmed that he would not back down from his decision, because these dolls were dear to him. His words brought tears to the girl he hugged, and the second, who was watching from the side, agreed with a slight smile that she understood his feelings. She gave Enid a special artifact, the helmet of controlling the mood and consciousness of magical dolls, explaining that with it, he would be able to summon those with whom he had a soul connection. Confident in his ability to cope, she encouraged him. Enid thanked Mizu and put on the helmet, feeling that this was exactly what he needed. When Enid activated the artifact, the dolls began to appear one after another, although he had not yet spent mana and the emotion transmission function was not activated. She noticed that it was not the artifact at all, they responded to the call of his heart. The dolls stood in complete silence, looking at Enid attentively. He realized that none of them had forgotten, because they kept his promise in their memory, to return home together. Enid hesitated, noticing that not all the dolls had arrived, and admitting that he had too weak a connection with some of them. Despite this, he was going to open a space-time portal and use the artifact to move the remaining dolls to the bottomless bag to return them later. The girl said that she would send him to Earth first and then take care of the rest herself, but the very idea of this seemed wrong to Enid. Maza hands Enid the elixir, explaining that it is needed to safely separate body and soul during the transition between dimensions. Without it, Enid's soul may perish. He is worried, but the maid promises to look after his body. A decision must be made immediately. Time is running out. Enid bids farewell to the celestial city, remembering how much he was amazed by everything that happened there. Despite his fatigue, he enjoyed being in this place and did not want to leave it. Waking up on Earth, he breathes in the air, looks around, and is surprised to realize that he has returned home. The girl asks him how he is feeling, and he, still under the impression, replies that he is fine. 3 years have passed, and Enid returns to Earth. He is surprised to find himself surrounded by jungle. Convinced that he is in the real world, he wonders if the continents have changed. Maza suggests putting on the artifact Divine Glasses to check out the situation. Enid puts on the Divine Glasses and sees a holographic map of the world in real time, a gift from Maza for his rebirth day. He thanks her, and, despite the map being slightly different from the one he had at home, can now figure out where he is. The hero, using the map, understands that he is on a new, previously unknown continent. He wants to return to the place from which he was sent to the Sky City, but realizes that this is now impossible. Nevertheless, he dreams of returning home as soon as possible, because his family is waiting for him there. Enid notices a strange red signal on the map, which points to a city called the immoral city of Melia. He is surprised by the unusual name and wonders what it could mean, since the city somehow stands out from the rest. While Enid was thinking about returning home, his device suddenly detected a threat. A group of cannibal demons were approaching them. Nana immediately warned him of the impending danger, and he confirmed that he had already noticed them. The boy realized that there might be a monster lair nearby, and did not want to start a fight. However, the combat dolls, who were able to fight effectively, asked for permission to destroy the enemies. They said that they were only waiting for an order from their master. Enid gave the girls permission to attack, but asked them to be careful. They enthusiastically accepted the order and moved forward. He hoped that they would succeed, but was still a little worried. The battle ended in a flash. The girls reported the elimination of their enemies without receiving a single scratch. Enid was amazed by their speed and efficiency. On Maza's advice, he poured some magic into them as a token of gratitude, although he admitted that he was afraid to refuse them. One of the dolls happily rushes to him, calling him dear and happy that she can finally talk to him normally. The other girls slightly reproach her for being overly excited. Enid, smiling, is happy that everyone returned safe and sound. The hero thanked the girls for everything they had done for him, and they confessed their love for him. At that moment, one of the dolls recorded a new biomarker in the northwest. The object does not look like a monster. Enid immediately called on everyone to focus, because now is not the time for games. The hero uses his clairvoyance and notices that, despite the distance, the object is reacting. At this time, two mysterious opponents appear in the forest. One of the dolls indignantly declared that she would never allow anyone to endanger her beloved. The other one resolutely supported her, saying that they would not allow this. He proudly declared that they would all protect their master. The hero noticed that there were other creatures nearby that were giving a response. He decided to check the information with the help of magic glasses, and discovered that there was a whole state nearby, the country of the Amazons, where 9,748 women lived. The news surprised him greatly. The hero, noticing the female warrior, recalls that when he heard the word Amazons, he always imagined a slightly different picture of slender and lightly dressed girls. He sheepishly admits that he would like to stay a little longer, despite the fact that his main goal remains returning to Melia. He announces that on his way to Amazonia he is going to gather information about local conditions because people will have to settle on this land. The girls are worried because it could be dangerous, and they do not know the origin of these Amazons. Nevertheless, they admire their master's determination, and he assures that he did not lie and is really going there. The hero decides to approach the watchers in the tree to explain they are not hostile. Meanwhile, the girls surround him, vowing to keep him safe and out of danger. He feels the pressure, but remains calm, knowing that the Amazons are watching just a few meters away. When the protagonist decided to approach the Amazons, one of them pulled a bow and tried to shoot. However, one of the combat dolls instantly neutralized the enemy, intercepting the arrow and knocking out the attacker. The hero, shocked, immediately clarified whether she was killed or only stunned. After the incident, the hero clarified with relief whether the shots from the Amazons were really just a warning. The girl confirmed that the arrows were aimed at the ground beneath his feet, not at him. She added that if the attack had been real, she would have broken their necks without hesitation. Another doll suggested that next time they should simply disarm their hands. After capturing the girls, Maza suggested disarming and examining them, as dangerous objects could be hidden under their clothes. Nita was initially embarrassed, since it was about girls, but then agreed to use the magical function of clairvoyance. He noted that it would not only be safe, but also humane. He began searching for hidden weapons under the captured girl's clothes, using his clairvoyance function. She reminded him that items could be hidden even under underwear, so there was no need to be embarrassed. Enid sheepishly complied, increasing his clairvoyance coefficient, but found that there was no weapon. The hero is completely embarrassed when the dolls undress the girls for inspection, stating that he does not want to go that far. Enid uses language understanding magic to communicate with two Aboriginal girls. They are surprised that they can understand him. He explains that he means no harm, but simply wants to learn more about the area. Nana suggests making them talk, but the hero tries to be gentler, without using force. The hero explains to the Aboriginal girls that they are heading east, but have poor orientation in the area. He tries to establish a dialogue, and they tell him that they recently encountered a crowd of ogres. The Amazons are shocked by the appearance of the ogres, especially that he who fought them has not a scratch. T calmly explains that he and others suppressed about 100 enemies. Girls rescued by Enid, they beg him for help. With tears in their eyes, they tell him that their kingdom used them as food for ogres. Enid is shocked by this revelation. He is in shock at such cruelty. In this shot, the girls introduce themselves. The black-haired one is called Minyu, and the red-haired one is Yun. Both of them are soldiers of the Amazon Guard. They tell Enid that they lived in peace until ogres came to the local thickets and settled there in huge numbers, disturbing the peace and seizing the territory where friendly countries previously lived. In a few years, the ogres destroyed entire tribes and kingdoms that existed near Amazonia. All people became food. The guard girls can't say for sure how many ogres are in the area, but there are obviously too many. Enid decides that if things continue like this, Amazonia will be the next victim. He wants to do something. Enid realizes with horror how serious the threat is. Tens of thousands of ogres that even armies cannot handle. And at that moment, he is calmly offered to destroy them all in a second, with his own forces. He is at a loss. Until recently, he was just an ordinary guy, and now the impossible is expected of him. He has offered an alternative to use destructive magic, but with the risk of destroying not only his enemies, but also everything around him. He is shocked by his helplessness, unable to respond with a word. His partner, not hiding her disappointment, points out that other wizards are able to control magic with subtlety, but he is not. In the end, it is decided that the battle will be accepted by the battle dolls. Enid suggests attacking the ogre layers together, but the girl with long hair decides otherwise. Each doll must destroy a separate layer alone. The winner will be the one who kills the most. The decision causes excitement among the others. After the competition is announced, the girls instantly transform, determined to fight the ogres. But their true motivation turns out to be much more personal. The winner hopes to win Enid's love. He is shocked, and a girl watching notes that everyone's fighting spirit is off the charts. The boy activates the analysis function in his magic glasses to observe the battle. The girl next to him assures him that there is nothing to worry about. Each of the battle dolls is equal in strength to an entire army, and even the chaos around is part of the plan. In this shot, Enid watches in amazement as his allies massacre the orcs. A special feature on his glasses displays the numbers. Over 13,000 low-ranking enemies and hundreds of high-ranking ones. Enid watches the end of a massive battle. One of the battle dolls stands triumphantly next to a defeated dragon. According to her, she is equal in strength to 10 such monsters. Enid amazed by what he saw, and the text reports that by sunset, the operation to exterminate the orcs was almost complete. The Amazons throw a celebratory reception to celebrate the rescue. They call Enid the Savior and respectfully offer him food. A table laden with food is set before him, and a girl watches from behind him with a slight smile, as if proud of his actions. Him with treats and thank him as a savior, offering the most exotic dishes like dragon and crocodile meat. He himself is a little embarrassed because it was mainly girls who fought, and he gets the honors. Meanwhile, one of them, without wasting time, eats the meat with pleasure, reminding that the banquet is in their honor too. One of the leading members of the tribe, dressed in ceremonial robes, steps forward and bows his head with dignity before the hero. His speech is short but weighty, each word conveying a sense of duty and salvation. The focus is on the ruler of the tribe, who appears young but has the wisdom and bearing of an experienced leader. Enid. Using his abilities, he notices the hidden potential in the young ruler, predicting that she will become a true beauty in time. In return for his help in battle, the queen and her people give him a special reception, emphasizing his importance as a savior. The warmth and respect in their behavior makes him slightly confused, but he accepts the invitation with restraint. After the formal reception, the ruler finishes the ceremony of gratitude with a serious look. Meanwhile, the atmosphere becomes more and more relaxed. An unusual treat is prepared in honor of the guests, a whole bath and wine. Some of the accompanying people, carried away by the delicious food, do not even immediately realize what is happening, but quickly express a desire to join in the fun. After a hearty meal, the main character is offered to continue his rest in a very unusual way by bathing in a wine spring. He is accompanied with honors, emphasizing that all this is organized especially in his honor. He is slightly confused by such attention, but is forced to obey. They already demand that he change his clothes and quickly immerse himself in the fragrant font. While Enid is preparing for a wine bath, he suddenly notices intense glances from the side. A group of local girls do not take their eyes off him, watching his every move with genuine interest. The hero clearly feels uncomfortable under such attention. While Enid is about to take part in an unusual wine bathing procedure, local girls continue to look at him with interest, hiding behind the fence. Despite his embarrassment, he tries to remain calm, but it becomes obvious that such a warm welcome from beautiful spectators does not give him peace. During a relaxing wine bath, Enid notices a group of girls suddenly approaching him with an innocent but obvious overture. What might seem like a normal situation takes a more outrageous turn, leaving him confused. What began as a relaxing swim suddenly takes an awkward turn for Enid. He is caught off guard by the girl's unexpected behavior, and while he struggles to justify himself, he is made to understand that his expectations were, to put it mildly, overrated. As soon as the hero starts to think about something ambiguous, he is literally overwhelmed by a wave of attention. One of his companions quickly and passionately defends her rights, clearly not intending to share him with others. The female characters surround him with gratitude and enthusiasm, expressing their willingness to serve him. Enid had to cope not only with the attention of the girls, but also with the curiosity of all the locals, who looked at him with such interest, as if he were the center of the party. Although he tried to behave discreetly, it did not save him from awkwardness. By the end of the evening, slightly tipsy, he admitted that the party was a success, although fatigue and embarrassment still took their toll. The queen, in turn, sincerely asked if he had enjoyed himself, clearly pleased with the result of the reception. Enid was surprised to see that there were no men or elderly people in the Amazon kingdom. When he asked, the queen confessed that because of the threat of the ogres, the inhabitants had to sacrifice people, starting with the elderly. This frankness shocked him, and made him take a new look at what the Amazons had gone through. The Amazonian queen told them that there were no more people over 30 in their nation. All the elderly had voluntarily given their lives to save their children and grandchildren. Among them was her mother, the former queen, who had sacrificed herself to save the people. Enid, hearing this, felt deep respect and sympathy, although the conversation itself had left him bitter. The Amazon queen thanked the savior with a warm smile for destroying the ogres. According to her, thanks to his actions, those who had previously been sacrificed for the sake of saving the tribe were finally avenged. She sincerely expressed her gratitude for the peace he brought to the people. When it became late, the queen wished him good night and a pleasant rest. He thanked her politely, but before leaving Nio, he asked if the Amazons took off their masks at night. The queen, leaving, answered in the affirmative, noting that no one should be in the bedroom except the family. When he inquired whether the Amazons took off their masks at night, the queen noticed his curiosity and asked if he wanted to see her real face. She added that if he really insisted and followed the rule, he would have the opportunity. When the queen offered Nitu to look at her true face, he refused, assuring her that he already saw everything since he used the clairvoyance function in his divine glasses and therefore saw the faces of everyone present. He added sheepishly that everyone was looking at him, naked, so it was fair. After Enid had announced with a smile that he had seen the true faces of all the women present without removing their masks, the Amazons surrounding him suddenly tensed up. He did not understand what had caused such a reaction. At the same time, the assembled people became furious, and the hero himself began to wonder if he had said something inappropriate. The Amazons began to be indignant, not understanding how the situation had changed so abruptly, and demanded that everyone present leave immediately. The battle dolls stood between the hero and the Amazons, declaring that they would not allow him to be touched. The protagonist watched what was happening in fear. And then, in a restrained but decisive voice, the queen ordered everyone to calm down immediately. The queen used a magical move, similar to a strong gust of wind, to stop the conflict. Everyone turned to her in amazement, falling silent. The protagonist noted how impressive it was, and his companion calmly explained that it was a type of spiritual magic called wind shout. The queen decided to explain the local customs to the stranger. She said that in the Amazon, women are strictly forbidden to show their bodies, especially their faces, to anyone except family members. The masked girls added that if another woman saw the face, it was not scary. But if it was a man, the situation became serious. The young man was informed that according to Amazonian law, any man who saw a woman's face was to be killed. This news stunned him. However, before he could panic, he was told that exceptions to this rule could be made in special cases. The queen confessed that there was a rare exception to the cruel rule. A man who saw the face of an Amazon woman could escape execution if he was loved. Hearing this, the young man was stunned. The guy couldn't believe that the only choice was to kill or love. He was shocked and outraged by the sanctity of local customs. The combat dolls immediately offered to eliminate the girls who saw him, but he tried to stop them in a panic. The queen calmly explained that it was just that love meant full responsibility and not something romantic. When the boy heard that there were no men in Amazonia, he began to understand that the situation was much more serious than it seemed. The women explained that a special sacrifice was required for the prosperity of their state. The queen, embarrassed, added that it was not only about her. She asked him to love not only her. She said that now that he had seen their faces, he must take responsibility not only for the queen, but for everyone else. They sheepishly asked him to give them offspring. The queen, with her hands clasped in supplication, turned to him with trembling, asking him to bestow his love upon her and the other women. The hero looked at her silently, and then, with a slight smile, agreed. Later, he woke up in a certain sheet, hearing someone softly calling his name. The hero wakes up to see 3 girls leaning towards him with smiles and wishing him a good morning. Then one of them jealously asks if he really spent the night with the others. He sheepishly tries to justify himself, reminding them that he didn't promise anything, but receives an affirmative answer. When another girl intervenes and demands that everyone disperse, he blushes, clearly feeling cornered. The girl, with a seductive smile, asks the hero not to waste time and to enjoy the company of girls to the fullest. The hero, in response, is noticeably nervous, unable to hide his embarrassment. Inwardly, he reflects on his fate. In the morning, he was surrounded by fighting dolls, and now by beauties from Amazonia. And all this looks like an exciting, but exhausting whirlpool of events. The hero finds himself in a hot spring, surrounded by naked girls, each of whom radiates joy and attention to him. They flirt, hug him, and enjoy the moment. One of the girls addresses him, calling him Savior. Another tenderly suggests going to the bedroom. The girls standing in the hot spring take turns expressing their eagerness to be loved by the hero. They flirt and address him seductively. One of them even says that everything is ready. In the background of all this, the queen, watching the events with restraint, silently watches the situation with an expression of slight jealousy or seriousness. One of them, the younger one in appearance, says that she also wants to be closer to him, to which the hero reacts with confusion and advises her to grow up first. The hero reflects on the fact that his life in this place is becoming quite turbulent. Several days, weeks, months pass since I led a stormy life. The protagonist is surprised to realize that a whole year has flown by unnoticed. He finds himself in a comical situation, literally knocked off his feet. Despite the fact that he is surrounded by girls, he mentally emphasizes that he did not spend all his time exclusively in the harem. There were other activities, even in the jungle. Queen Amria, with an innocent and enthusiastic expression, declares that she also wants offspring, since a year has already passed. The protagonist is embarrassed and confused, not expecting such a direct statement. He asks to wait a little. The protagonist explains that he has created a large number of wooden golems to reclaim the jungle. In front of him stands a multitude of these creatures. They look like living trees with black, empty eyes. He tells them that after driving out the ogres, he decided to expand the territory of Amazonia. In front of them, a large number of wooden golems are lined up, created by him for this purpose. The queen notes with delight that this is wonderful and wonders how many of them there are. The protagonist reveals that he has created exactly 1,000 wooden golems, much to the queen's surprise. He explains that creating such creatures using true magic is a fairly simple task. As long as he supplies them with magical energy, they remain active. Although wooden golems are weaker than other types, they are still significantly stronger than a normal human. The guy demonstrates the use of the magic spell Creation of a Golem, turning trees into wooden creatures. He reasons that if you transform the interfering vegetation in this way, you can quickly increase the number of workers. This causes delight and admiration among all the women present. The women thank the protagonist, calling him divine for his accomplishments. He is embarrassed, claims that they are exaggerating, and admits that he stayed in the Amazon to help with the development of the jungle. He explains that he has taken up the development of the kingdom and is wondering what tools he will need to set up his life. The protagonist explains to the girls that he is making a tool called a teeth hoe that will be useful for cultivating the land. He notes that such a tool is useful for cultivating dry or rice fields. To his surprise, the locals admit that they have never grown grain and eat hunting and fruit. He discusses the usefulness of a hoe with teeth, a tool that can effectively pierce even hard soil, significantly increasing the productivity of land cultivation. However, he recalls that in his homeland, such a hoe was not used, since excessive loosening of the soil could cause erosion and soil depletion. The land there was unsuitable for deep plowing, and the development of the tool eventually had to be stopped. The young man ponders the possibilities of agriculture in the new conditions. He comes to the conclusion that the local lands are suitable for cultivation. Unlike his homeland, there is an abundance of fertile soil here, so it is possible to actively develop agriculture. He also notes that even inexperienced girls can take care of the fields if they prepare the foundation. However, he faces the problem of not being able to start sowing without seeds. When the hero is at a dead end, due to the lack of seeds, a woman called Mother appears and gives him the seeds of magical wheat. She explains that this wheat was created in the era of an ancient magical civilization. In appearance, the seeds are no different from ordinary ones, but they are significantly superior to them. The yield is almost guaranteed, the strength is higher, and for the growth of this crop, it requires not only water and oxygen, but also mana. The hero reflects on how the jungle they are in is particularly suitable for growing magical wheat. He notes that mana is usually scattered everywhere, but here there is a high concentration of mana, water, and air. The girl confirms the area is truly saturated with magic. It is rare to find such favorable conditions in such a vast area. He says it's time to get down to business and asks the mother for everything he needs. She agrees and provides him with seeds of various magic vegetables. The girls, together with the wooden golems, begin preparing the fields. Some sow and water, others work with magical help. The protagonist notes that the fields are now well prepared for further cultivation. The girls bring the protagonist coconut juice and thank him for teaching them. Thanks to his lessons, they can easily cope with agricultural tasks. The protagonist notes that even without the help of wooden golems, it will now be calm here, and the girls are already well versed in the work. One of the heroines reports that she conducted a soil study and discovered coal deposits under the jungle. The protagonist notes that although science in this world has not yet developed to the level of using coal as energy, in ancient times there was its magical analog, quote, mana coal. It is also mentioned that in the era of a highly developed magical civilization, products of mana oil processing, such as mana oil, were used. The heroine explains that in their world, magical energy can be obtained from feelings of love. In the Celestial City, they avoid using mana coal and mana oil so as not to pollute the city. Coal is not particularly needed here, and combat dolls can be strengthened by love for their owner. A magical device called a mitten that can synthesize diamonds. If you compress coal in it under the influence of enormous temperature and pressure, it turns into a diamond. The main character is surprised and compares this to superhero abilities. The heroes discuss the unique properties of the tool for magical diamond synthesis. It can automatically create pure diamonds, purifying them from impurities, but requires a large supply of mana. The protagonist is confident that he can handle it. He is also going to create a golem in the shape of a hand, using local rocks as material. They enthusiastically start a project to mine coal and produce diamonds using a magical device. The main character inspires everyone to create many diamonds, and the process starts. A year later, the mechanism is already working. The characters evaluate the quality of the diamonds they have created. Although they look good, their weight, transparency, color, and cut are still far from ideal. The characters discuss how they still need to study to reach the highest level. At the end, a legend is mentioned that a real diamond can be created even from ashes, like a phoenix. The protagonist estimates the value of the synthetic diamonds he created. Unlike Earth, where such stones are cheaper than natural ones, in this world synthetic diamonds do not exist at all, so they are highly valued. He assumes that one diamond can cost over 100 gold coins, and in a year he made as many as 30,000, which is equivalent to a huge fortune. While the main character was trying to develop the kingdom and make children, something made him feel uncomfortable. A girl asks a guy to give her his biological fluid. The feeling of discomfort arises from this girl, who reminds the guy of his younger sister. From the very beginning of his stay, she has become attached to him with such requests. The guy asks Leah to stop calling him brother, to which the girl refuses. She convinces him that he has taught her a lot, just like a brother. She comes up close to him and asks him to teach her how to make children. The guy is worried that during his time in another world, none of the girls got pregnant. The guy wants to meet Leah's family, so he decides to leave Amazonia. The girls don't want to let him go until at least one of them gets pregnant. The guy says it's time for him to go back, to which the girls ask him to stay a little longer. The girls remind that the guy made them a promise. Mom suggests that the guy stay, but for 3 months. In the end, the guy agrees, but the girl adds her own condition. Now, according to the conditions of NIT, the guy must try to conceive a child with more than 100 girls every day for 3 months. Regardless of the time of day, the guy continued to sleep with many girls. To prevent the boy from dying of exhaustion, NIT gives him super energy water to restore his strength. Leah appears, asking the guy to have children with her, to which he refuses, saying that he promised others. The maids are upset that their master is spending time with other girls. The guy comes home, and the maids ask him to have fun with them, but he is already exhausted for the day. Despite the guy's tiredness, the girls still take him to the bathroom to do something. 2 months after making that promise, the guy, barely able to stand on his feet, finally went outside. Mom immediately attacks the guy, saying that he is weak and should try harder. The guy is sincerely glad that the girls need him, but staying in their company every day without rest is too cruel. The girls are unhappy that the guy is resting, has not completed his quota, and are trying to drag him back to the harem. Leah doesn't understand why the guy doesn't want to sleep with her and asks him about it. The guy can't tell her that she looks like his sister, and that's why he doesn't want to sleep with her. The girls also intervene in the conversation, supporting Leah, but the maids stand up for the master. The girls start arguing about who the gentleman likes more. The maids are called fakes. The atmosphere becomes tense, and for a second, there is silence between the girls. Mom explains that she calmed the fighting dolls down beforehand so that the conflict wouldn't go too far. She says that the dolls are just worried that the girls will take all of Nita's love for themselves. Mom notes that they can't be like NIT their whole lives. Girls and dolls will still have disagreements with each other. Because the boy is almost at his limit, Mother shows him a special magical tool that can help a lot. Thanks to this tool, all girls will be able to get pregnant in a month. According to Nita's calculations, at this rate he will have about 1,000 children. Before leaving, NIT crafted several diamonds as a parting gift. Some girls still wanted to get pregnant naturally, to which the maid reminded them that they now had a magical device. Suddenly, trouble appeared. A large crowd of giants was heading to the kingdom. It turns out that there are more than 1,000 giants, and there are also super large giants. NIT understands that they are powerless against such a crowd. He asks Maza if they can handle it, to which she replies that they can. The girl notes that they have over 100 fighting dolls. NIT asks the dolls to help. The dolls agree, and Mom notes that they will definitely cope. Besides, now they have weapons. The weapon is made from diamonds in a furnace of pure magic, which further increases its combat power. Due to the difference in body type, the boy is asked to create a super large golem for battle. The queen is very worried about whether the guy will be able to cope, but NIT calms her down by promising that he will think of something. The crying queen thanks the guy. A battle began between the giants and the puppet. The girls skillfully beat the giants, despite the fact that they are several times larger than them. Mom warns to be careful, because the victory was very easy. But despite this, the giants are no match for the dolls, considering the equipment of the dolls. Plus, they still have the diamond golem, but Mama is worried that the biggest giant hasn't entered the fight yet. NIT says he won't let the dolls lose to the giants, when he suddenly notices the girls hiding in the grass. They think he's in danger and want to help. Suddenly a giant appears, ready to step on the girls. The guy screams at them to run away. The girls are saved by dolls. The dolls make sure the girls are okay, and asked them to wait in a safe place. They dealt with that situation, but now another problem arose: the Titan of the Earth. The dolls were buying time to activate the magic of the Supreme Spirit and are now ready to fight back against this giant. Nita has a bad feeling and, noticing the giant's movement, tells everyone to step back. A golem stands up to protect the guy. The maid says that the master should worry about people, not about them. After all, they are dolls, and even if they break, they still will not die. Knit tells her not to dare to say that, since he doesn't care whether they are dolls or not. The maids were touched by the guy's words. The golem fight and the dolls protect him. The duel begins, the golem attacks. The giant stands still when, unexpectedly for him, the golem strikes. The giant staggered slightly and, gathering his strength, made a blow. Since the golem was made of diamond, the impact only caused a small crack. The guy understands that one more blow to the golem and they will have problems. So he strikes again with the help of the golem. The golem deals several quick blows. Finally, the giant can't take it anymore and falls to the ground. The queen, with tears in her eyes, thanks her savior. The girls do not understand why the dolls helped them, but the dolls explain that they know how the girls feel about their homeland and understand everything. The guy is glad that the dolls and the girls have become friends. Suddenly, Leah appears and thanks the maid for saving him. She says that she would always like to be with the dolls. Knit is happy to see the happy smiles of the residents. After 6 months, there is no longer any danger that the giants will return, and it is time for Nitu to return home. The large-scale magic ship is ready. The day has finally come to leave the Amazon. The Queen and Knit are amazed by the ship, while Mama tells about its characteristics. The guy compares this ship to the earthly battleship, Yamada. The ship also has weapons, a special cannon that can destroy an entire meteorite with one blow. The Queen thanks the savior. Thanks to him, her country has developed, and now it is possible to live in peace and prosperity. The Queen promises that even after the savior is gone, she will firmly defend her country and people, to protect this country for the sake of the children who were born thanks to the savior. Finally, Knit said goodbye to everyone and set off on his journey. The maids offer the guy coffee and fruit, since training will start soon, but for now he needs to get some good rest. Thanks to the king's speed, they got pretty close to Melia in just half a day. But they didn't come across any settlements along the way, which is quite strange. The maid says that it is hardly possible to live on such a wasteland, but the guy assures that this wasteland did not exist recently. The guy has a bad feeling. Finally, the boy returned to Melia. The guy is surprised by the changes in the city. Mom notes that the city has become decadent. The gap between rich and poor has become very noticeable. Someone was stabbed and robbed. Someone is doing debauchery right in the middle of the street, and no one cares. The guy wonders if there is morality in this city. The guy doesn't understand how the city got to this point, and remembers his family. He goes to the city. He hurries, hoping to meet at least one of his family or friends. But there are only brothels around, and no familiar houses. Suddenly, not far from the guy, bandits attack an old man. He offers to give gold or silver instead of food, to which the bandits assure that with the help of alchemy, they can be easily created, which greatly surprises the guy. Using magic, the boy saves the old man. The boy asks the old man how much time has passed since the discovery of the continent. The answer stuns the guy a little, and he begins to calculate his age. Suddenly, the guy is reminded that in the heavenly city where he was, time moves a little differently. It turned out that most of the world was devastated by the war. In that war, powerful magic was used, which caused a thermonuclear explosion. The development of alchemy led to a decrease in the value of gold and silver. People became less ethical than before. As a result of the explosion, the world was engulfed in magical flames. Mom asks the guy what they will do next, to which he replies that he would like to go back in time to his family. Mom says that there is a magic tool that can return them to the past, but alas, the chances are very small. The guy was upset to the point of tears. He misses his family very much. Suddenly, the sky begins to split, which leaves the couple in shock. Elf Fairy appears, who has finally found Nita. Turned out to be a third-rank wind spirit who had once promised to return. The guy, just like the spirit, is glad to meet him. Meanwhile, Mom is annoyed. She was in a giant statue that was blown up by a goddess, and now she is injured. Suddenly she goes crazy and takes out a bomb that can destroy the planet. She's gonna finish off the goddess. She throws a bomb at the goddess, but she says that you can't throw dangerous toys. The goddess confiscates the bomb using a black hole. Mom got completely furious and decided that she and Knit were going back to the ship. On the ship, the maids greet them with a smile, but Mom just runs away in a rage. The maids are very surprised and ask what happened. The boy tries to stop his mother, but she is still determined to kill the goddess. She launches a magic cannon and starts the countdown. The guy thinks that everything should be fine with the goddess, and in the meantime, his mother fires a volley. The boy is shocked by the pure magical energy that his mother shoots at the goddess, and worriedly asks the goddess to run away. Suddenly, the goddess is transformed from a spirit into a deity of the universe. The boy is happy to meet the good old goddess, and meanwhile, his mother is even more horrified. The goddess uses a magical reflection. Her reflection is 3 times stronger than her mother's volley. Using it, she reflected the volley back. The guy rejoices at the goddess's powers, but remembers that the volley is now flying at the ship. To make the ship withstand the blow, the maids use all their magical power to create a barrier. But it turns out to be cracked. The magic power starts to decrease, which could lead to the barrier being destroyed. Everyone starts to panic. The guy wants to help his mother and asks what he can do, to which she asks to transfer magical power to the battleship. She gives him a magic crystal and asks him to put magic power into it. Everyone relies on the guy. The guy agrees and puts his hand on the crystal. Thanks to its power, the barrier becomes stronger. The barrier becomes thicker, making it able to withstand the attack. The guy tries very hard, but something goes wrong, and the amount of magical power decreases again. The countdown begins and everyone panics. Knit understands that if he relaxes even a little, he will lose consciousness. He survives all layers of power in hopes of protecting everyone. Suddenly, the symbols of the 7th true demon gate appear on his forehead. The guy feels strange, and that the magic has reached its limit, but the sun still overwhelms him. Finally, the boy learned to absorb the magic around him, thanks to which he can use magical power infinitely. The guy is trying his best to protect everyone again. Finally, the shot ended, and the ship stood firm. Everyone is happy and thanks the gentleman for saving them. Mom is happy to tears. Knit surprised her a lot. Suddenly the guy falls to the ground, but someone catches him in time. It turns out it's a goddess. Mom is so shocked by the appearance of the goddess that she loses consciousness. The goddess is happy that the guy got out of the situation and says that she knew he would come up with something. Meanwhile, the maids are trying to bring their mother to her senses. The boy asks the goddess how she got here, to which she replies that she used her super teleport function. Mom comes to her senses, and the goddess's greeting scares her again. The guy asks the goddess again, to which she says that she was transported to an era where there was nothing, and using her powers, she returned to the guy's era. The maid wonders if the goddess's story is true, and asks to return the master to his time. The goddess agrees to bring the boy back to the time when his family was alive. The guy agrees, and decides to move to the day after his move to the heavenly city. But the goddess shocks the guy by saying that there is a chance that the passengers can die. The boy is happy about the idea of meeting his family, and asks the goddess to bring him back. The goddess begins space-time teleportation. The guy opens his eyes for a second, feeling strange, after which he sees the old city he lived in. He looks around and is amazed to see people he knows. He shed a tear of joy and then told his friends that he was returning home. The maids happily let the master go, and he rushes at full speed to the church, since his relatives should be there now. The residents are surprised to see the boy, as they thought he was sacrificed in the ruins. The guy is confused by something, because of which, lost in thought, he flies a little past the church. Finally, on the spot, Knit prepares to enter the church. He thinks that the family will be surprised, because for them, he has grown 5 years in one day. Finally, he enters the church and calls out to his family. The family is very happy to see their son and brother finally returning home. The sister, in tears, throws herself into her brother's arms, not believing that this is real. The sister is very happy that the guy is alive, and says that every day she tried to follow in his footsteps. She cast a spell of instant death every day to quickly find peace. but nothing worked. The sister begins to tell what other deadly spells exist. The girl counted how many days had passed since her brother's disappearance and assures him that she had not forgotten him for a single day. The guy understands that almost 5 years have passed since his disappearance, to which his sister says exactly how many hours, minutes, and seconds have passed. It had been praying in church ever since he disappeared, hoping to meet him someday. The boy does not understand why he returned 5 years later. His parents ask him to tell them what happened to him during this time. The guy starts thinking about how best to begin his story. The goddess intervenes in his thoughts and offers to tell him everything that happened to him. The guy told everything as it was. His parents didn't really believe his story and thought he was using something or hit his head hard. The sister asks if her brother had a relationship with anyone. The guy assures that he has never had a relationship with anyone from this time and world. The brother's answer calms the sister. Meanwhile, the goddess tells the boy to show the family the ship and the others, a little hesitantly, but the boy decides to do it. He asks his mother to bring the ship to a certain place and shows it to his family. The boy tells his mother about the ship. He also introduces his family to the maids and the goddess. The goddess puts the huge ship into a magic bag, which surprises the boy's mother. Mother and goddess found common ground. Meanwhile, Father suggests the boy return to the mansion to rest. One of the maids starts to be capricious that she and her master are being separated again. Another maid asks him to spend time with his family, but not to forget about them. Something begins to dawn on my sister, causing her to start shaking. Once home, the family began to celebrate their son's return. They prepared delicious and expensive dishes especially for him. The boy thanks everyone and notices Misery standing to the side. The parents say that she was not allowed to cook because she adds the wrong things. The sister says that she understands Misery, since she does this because of her unrequited love for the boy's father. The mother assures that if the boy's father cheats on her, he will suffer even after death. After dinner, the guy finally took a bath at home at 5. Suddenly, the sister appears and asks if her brother is okay in the bathroom. The girl begins to undress, which of course her brother hears, after which he asks if she can take a bath with him. The guy is a little awkward, but he still agrees to take a bath with his sister. The girl, embarrassed and covering her naked parts, goes into the bathroom. The guy is surprised at how much his sister has grown, which is why he involuntarily stares at her. They sit in the bath together and Knit jokes that they look more like lovers. The girl is happy that they are now together and asks her brother to go to bed together after the bath. The guy agrees and remembers how they love to sit and hug like this as children, so he decides to hug her. The girl did not expect hugs, which made her very nervous and she lost consciousness. He carried her to the bed, after which he lay down next to her. The next day, the guy is informed that the city's rank will soon be raised. Parents explain that many people moved to Melia because of its beautiful places. The guy has no doubt about the city's success and praises his parents for it. The father notes the creations of his son, which also helped bring the city to such success. However, in Melia, mass production of soap begins. Along with this, the problem of food supply levels also arises. The boy's mother takes the problem very seriously and assures her husband that if they rely only on imports, nothing good will come of it. The boy decides to go out and have a look around the city. His parents tell him to greet the locals and meet new ones. Before Knit could leave, his friend Conan immediately rushed towards him with hugs. They are also joined by their sister Nita and a few other friends. Upon hearing of the boy's return, they travel a long distance to meet. The guy is happy to meet his friends, and his friends are happy that he is back. Cain burst into tears of happiness because the guy sacrificed himself to protect them all. Elena happily hugs the guy and says that it's all thanks to the prayers of his family. The townspeople are also happy that the boy has returned. They, like his family, prayed for Neat's return. Everyone was so happy that the guy returned alive and well. The guy returns to the ship. He can't stop thinking about how to solve the food problem. He promised to return to the ship every day to spend time with the dolls. The maid is glad that the master decided to help with the city's problems. Suddenly, the mother appears, and the guy asks her for advice. She suggests planting magical seeds around the lake, and to make them sprout quickly, she suggests watering them with magical rain. The guy doesn't really understand what his mother means, and she explains about this magical instrument. The guy asks how much magical power will be required, and the answer quite stuns him. The guy says that it will be difficult to do it alone, to which his mother takes out a few more tools to help him. She also reminds the boy that he has many servants to help him. Suddenly, a goddess appears, offering her help. The goddess greets the guy, and again frightens the goddess with her presence. She also greets her mother, which scares her even more. The guy asks if everything is okay with the goddess, since he hasn't seen her since the move. The goddess explains that she spent a lot of energy on moving and her main form should now be restored, but asks the guy not to worry. The goddess explains that she has incredible vitality. She uses her knowledge to tell the boy how best to cultivate the land before planting. The goddess creates a whirlwind that causes the hems of all the girls' dresses to rise. The goddess points to the northwest and assures that the harvest will be rich. The dolls divided into teams and cleared the area of monsters. Each team listed which monsters they destroyed and their number. Finally, they finished clearing the area, and the guy thinks about taking the monster carcasses to the guild. The guy suggests starting to prepare the land. Mom suggests leaving the watering to the servant doll and assigning the rest of the work to regular dolls. For help with cleaning, it was decided to reward the team that showed the best results. Finally, the guy comes home. He is very tired that day. At home, the guy is met right at the door by his sister, which makes him a little scared. She notices the mark of the doll's kiss and becomes jealous. The sister assures that she will accept any hobbies the guy may have developed during his absence. The next day, the maids collected water for irrigation and turned it into magic water. The maids are watering the land for sowing. One of the maids asks for help to replenish her magical power. The guy agrees and, using a special technique, transfers power to her through a kiss. The maid thanks the master, and the next one is already waiting for her turn. Nanashi stops her, assuring her that magic needs to be replenished when it is almost running out. Nanashi has special glasses that allow her to see the amount of mana remaining. Cultivation of the land continued, and the cultivated lands expanded. The parents are surprised to see what a vast land they managed to create in such a short time. The boy tells his parents that he and the dolls have changed the quality of the soil a little. The father says that there is a lot of barren land in the area, which is why people in the northern regions suffer from the cold. The father would like to help others as much as possible. He wants to find a crop that grows well, even in cold regions. The guy remembers the culture from his home world and wonders if there is a similar one here. Suddenly, the goddess appears to convey a prophecy. She assures that the boy will find what he is looking for in the southwest. The goddess warns that the buds of this plant are poisonous, the guy thinks. Finally, he remembers that it is a potato and decides to go looking for it. The sister is happy that the guy took her with him on the trip. The guy was preparing to send one, and even got permission from his parents. But the sister did not want to let her brother go and asked to go with him. The goddess notes that if they adjust to their sister's speed, they will have to fly for a very long time. She asks the guy to speed up 10 times. The goddess assures that if the guy takes his sister in his arms and speeds up, they will fly faster. To which the guy agrees. The sister is embarrassed, but allows her brother to pick her up. The guy is a little uncomfortable with this pose, but his sister looks pleased. Finally, they speed up, but this is not enough for the goddess, and she suggests speeding up even more. Finally, they stop, but due to the high speed, the guy flies a little further than the goddess. The goddess points to the area, assuring that what the guy is looking for is there. The guy is very surprised, because it turns out to be the land of Amazonia, which he had already been to before. The sister asks if what the brother is looking for is here, to which she receives an answer, after which they both land. The residents of the settlement considered the guy legendary, since he descended from heaven, and began to bow to him. The girl's behavior greatly surprised the guy himself and his sister. The brother and sister were taken to the most important of them all. Suddenly, a girl in a mask appeared and greeted the travelers. She introduced herself to them, and then her sister asked why they were so hospitable. The queen explains that they are the legendary white people, and tells the legend. The goddess likes this legend, and suggests that the boy call himself the legendary white man. In the end, the guy agrees to be called that, and tells about the purpose of his arrival. The guy is given a lot of potatoes, and in gratitude he gives the queen some diamonds. The queen allowed the guests to stay overnight, after which they went to deliver potatoes to the northern part. The sister is very embarrassed by the position she and her brother are in. Soon they reach the city where they showed the potatoes to the local governor. The governor asks a few questions, after which he thanks the guy for a new kind of culture. The sister praises her brother for making so many efforts to help everyone. The girl says that she is proud of her brother and jumps into his arms again. She happily says that she will follow her brother until the end of her life, and hugs him with a smile. Suddenly, the boy's mother says that it's time for him to get married. The boy thinks it's too early, but his mother insists. The mother wants her son to marry for the sake of his sister, since she refuses to marry until her brother marries. Mother thinks that it would be better for Nit to marry his sister since he doesn't want anyone else, but fortunately or unfortunately the guy doesn't hear this. At dinner, the maid feeds the boy, which makes the boy's parents feel awkward for their son. The sister is categorically against the maid taking care of her brother in this way, and believes that she can take care of him herself. After the move, the guy leads a double life at home and on the ship, and only his sister has a negative attitude towards this. Suddenly, the doll kisses Nita, stunning the boy's sister. The father remarks that he would like to have the same kind doll, which makes his wife very jealous. A little later in the bathroom, the maid wants to rub the master's back, but the sister also wants to do it. The girls begin to argue. As a result of the argument, the doll pushes the girl, causing her to fall. She got angry and ordered the doll to leave, but alas, the doll only listens to her brother. The girl comes close to the doll and still tries to command it. The guy interrupts the girls, saying that arguing in the bathroom is dangerous and suggests that they just wash together. A girl trusts a doll to wash a guy's back. The doll uses its body to do it. The girl is surprised by the doll's actions and wants to wash her brother with her body as well. After the bath, the doll climbs onto the bed with the master. The sister does not like this and demands that she get off. The girls argue again and eventually all three go to bed. In the morning, the maid will be with the guy in a very intimate way. The guy is already used to this but remembers that he is now at home, which is why he jumps up sharply. The maid can't stand it anymore, she wants her master. The guy doesn't mind, and the maid pounces on him. Suddenly, the sister enters the room. There was silence. The sister was shocked by what she saw. The girl starts to read the spell, but the guy tries to stop her and explain everything. She uses an instant death spell on the doll, but it doesn't work. The sister calls the guy a pervert and assures him that she will correct his perverted inclinations. Amelia puts on some nice lingerie and asks her brother's opinion. The guy asks why his sister is showing off in front of him, to which she replies that it's a correction. The guy says that it is strange to feel attracted to his sister, to which the girl assures that there is nothing strange. A little later, the deputy mayor comes to discuss city policy. He also touches on the topic of population growth. The guy suggests creating places for dating. After a few months, after consultation with Mr. Sabs, a meeting place was finally set up. Despite the participation fee, it turned out to be a large-scale group date. To the guy's surprise, even people from other countries came to the event. The sister came to thank her brother for organizing the event. She doesn't want her brother to get close to other girls, and that's why she came to the event. A week before the event, there was a problem with the small number of women, but my mother solved it by suggesting to pass off the dolls as people and allow them to participate. The goddess believes that it is terrible to deceive, so you need to honestly tell people that these are dolls. One half of the dolls act sweet and sociable, while the other half act the opposite. People really liked the idea of the dolls, and the guy is thinking about placing the dolls in clubs or cafes. The guy thinks that his sister needs to spend more time with others, when suddenly Conan appears. The girl says that she likes men with a good appetite, which makes Conan pounce on the table with food. Meanwhile, Amelia quietly takes her brother to the dance. The girl asks to dance with her, but the guy refuses, saying that she already has many candidates. Rita suddenly appears and asks the guy to dance. She came to the event to win Nita. She asks the guy to marry her, but his sister refuses. The guy asks why Rita wants to marry him, to which he receives a ton of compliments. The guy agrees to dance with Rita, but Amelia asks to dance the first dance with her. Nit accidentally trips and falls face first into Alina's chest. The sister starts to get jealous again, and Alina takes advantage of the moment and invites the guy to dance. The guy is faced with a difficult choice of who to dance with. In the end, he danced with each of the girls in turn. Amelia is very happy that her brother danced with her. Finally, it's time for confessions. Women and men can confess their feelings or become friends. The men ask the dolls to date and confess their love, but to their regret, the dolls refuse them. Rita approaches Nitu and asks him to marry her. Alina intervenes in their conversation, saying that because of marrying Rita, the guy will have to renounce his faith. The marriage of Nita and Rita cannot be recognized by the church, since the guy belongs to the correct magical homeland, and the girl worships spirits. Rita believes that they can get married under the blessing of the spirits without any church. The guy understands that such a marriage can be a problem. Taking advantage of the moment, Elena offers her candidacy for the role of bride. The guy faces a difficult choice, but he still wants to marry the one who truly loves him. The boy looks back at his sister and notices her saddened look. He decides that he needs to choose between Rita and Elena so that his sister will distance herself from him. But the goddess does not agree with this. The goddess predicted that if the guy responded to the proposal of at least one of the girls, something bad would happen to his sister. The guy is shocked by the goddess's prediction. The goddess tells him how his sister's life will go if he accepts the offer, which shocks the guy even more. The guy approaches his sister, a little upset. He asks if she is against his marriage to one of the girls, to which the girl replies that she is against it. The guy approaches the girls and refuses their offers. The sister is very surprised by her brother's decision. The goddess explains that the sister is waiting for a declaration of love from her brother. Unexpectedly, Amelia confesses her love to Nitu. The guy abruptly closes her mouth so that the girl doesn't say anything unnecessary.